distinguished Gambians in the diaspora, the leadership team at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. We also extend greetings to the leadership team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are also saying a warm welcome to other members and the leadership team of Diaspora Networks. My name is Samba Bijala, and I will be moderating today's session. We would like to welcome you and thank you for joining this call, where we launch the Msdg Diaspora Development Fund and also launch the discussions and engagements with the diaspora on the upcoming recovery-focused National Development Plan of the Gambia, as well as the successor to Vision 2020, which for now we are calling the Long-Term Development Vision 2050 of the Gambia. Please allow me to recognize in our midst the presence of members, the Director of Development Planning, Mr. Alaji Fadera. We also have Professor Jibril Fall of the Msdg in this call. We also have Pamusa Sidibe, as well as Madam or Miss Nume Saho and Mr. Lamin Dabo. Mr. Lamin Dabo has recently been appointed to serve as the national consultant leading the technical support for the review and update of the Gambian diaspora strategy within the Msdg project. Mr. Dabo is the former director of the National Youth Council, and recently he returned to the Gambia after completing his MSc studies in migration and global development at the University of Sussex as a Chevening scholar. Allow me to also inform you that the GK partner, is pleased to announce this week that Ms. Mumbesaho also joined the team as technical director of the Msdg project and country office. Ms. Saho is on secondment from the Office of the President, where she served as Director of Coordination at the Department of Strategy, Policy and Delivery. Prior to that, Numbe also worked at the Ministry of Finance for many years, specializing in debt management. Now, within the Msdg project, Numbe will work on diaspora investment and finance. Having said that, please allow me to quickly emphasize that today's call marks just the start of a process, and certainly it will not be the last. We will continue to engage with our diaspora brothers and sisters throughout this, and my colleague will share with you details on how we intend to continue the engagement after this call. Colleagues, having said that, I would now invite Mr. Alaji Fadera, who is the Director of Development Planning at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to offer welcoming remarks on behalf of government. Alaji, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Samba. And thank you very much, Samba. No, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, just the speaker. Okay. You have to mute both the speaker and the microphone. Okay. This audio is on. Are we okay? Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Samba, and thank you, colleagues. The leadership of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Governments Abroad, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Governments Abroad, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the diaspora, Professor Gabriel Paul, our UK partners and the Msdg project, Dr. Chiganjaro, lead consultant, colleague, government officials. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on the different time zones that we are all in. I am very pleased to deliver this opening remarks at this important with the Gambian diaspora on the Green Recovery Focus National Development Plan, as the RFNDP, and the Long-Term Development Vision, LTDV. This meeting is part of a series of consultations that are being held with various stakeholders as part of our formulation process of base development blueprints, that's the long-term vision and the medium-term recovery focus national development plan. As you may be aware, the National Development Plan 2018-2021, which has been extended to cover 2022, is coming to an end by December of this year. And the Vision 2020 has since expired in 2020. Due to these reasons, the government deems it necessary to develop successful plans that will steer the development of this country, both in the long term as well as in the medium term. Against this background, the government commissioned a consultancy led by Dr. Chiganjaro to help support the formulation of these two plans. It is government's intention to strengthen the linkages between the medium-term plan and the long-term vision. And that is why, as part of the formulation processes, we are strengthening the processes, the alignment between these two processes, both in terms of consultation as well as in terms of the reviews, to ensure that by the time the medium-term plan is finalized, it has some strong linkages to the long-term vision. The Recovery Focus National Development Plan will address the medium-term recovery needs of the country, as well as provide an opportunity for development partners to align as well as enhance their support to the country's recovery as well as our medium-term development needs. The
the Green Recovery Focused National Development Plan will help address the triple development challenges that we face, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and the risk of debt distress.
Sorry, go ahead.
The new vision, which will take us up to 2050, will provide a framework for the transformation of the country's economy and society in a very participatory and inclusive manner. It will take into account the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, that's the SDGs, the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, as well as the country's long-term climate change vision and strategy. To ensure participation and ownership, the development of this blueprint is engaging as many stakeholders as possible so that we're able to get their inputs. In this regard, we've already held regional and world-level consultations across the different administrative regions of this country. For the first time in such an endeavor, we've visited and interacted with stakeholders in all the 120 wards across the country. The consultations at this level have had technical advisory committee members, that's at the regional level under the Office of the Governor, civil society organizations, the private sector, youth, persons living with disabilities, children, women, and Council of Elders. These consultations provide the stakeholders an opportunity to discuss what the current development challenges are, what improvements have been registered as a result of the implementation of the National Development Plan, and what their recommendations are for the recovery-focused National Development Plan and the long-term vision. This consultative meeting with the diaspora is one of these many consultations that are being held. The objective of these consultations is to ensure that all relevant stakeholders at all levels participate in the development process, that we're able to gather information from them on what they consider as development priorities, what the development challenges are, and what are some of the opportunities, both for the long-term vision and the recovery-focused National Development Plan, and what, in their view, could be done differently to accelerate the development of their motherland. The consultations with the diaspora is a very important one for us. It provides a platform for engagement that will enable us to gather your inputs, to enhance your participation in the national development planning process. The role of the diaspora in the development process of our country is a very important one. The important role of the diaspora in the development process, among others, include the significant amount of remittances, which over the years have been increasing, and which in 2021 stood at $773.7 million US dollars, about 62.9% of our GDP. This assessment was done by the central bank. So 69.2% of GDP is really very significant in financial terms as far as our gross domestic product is concerned. And this is higher than any allocation or any financial contribution by any development partner to the Gambia. Additionally,
Samba, can you kindly unmute?
whether this is in the area of health, education, etc. Apart from these two considerations of the expertise and the remittances, we also know that for legal as well as for moral reasons, the diaspora is an indispensable partner in the development of our country. This is because the diaspora are also citizens, many are citizens of this country, and it is only morally and legally right for us to ensure that they are adequately engaged in the development process of this country. We will also recognize that the consultations are coming at a time when the global economy is still grappling with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also reeling from the ramifications of the Russia-Ukraine war, which is affecting economies around the world, including ours. During this consultative forum, I kindly urge all of you to interact and actively participate so that we can ensure your concerns are captured in the documents as we reflect on some of the development gains we may have registered during the past or during the recent years, but also the challenges that we are facing. To ensure that we continue to enhance this virtual participation in the formulation process of our National Development Plan, an online platform that is the National Development Planning Platform is up and running, and it will be used as an opportunity to collect relevant information from all stakeholders virtually so that it will inform the formulation and the crafting of priorities and strategies for our development plan. We hope this is going to enhance inclusion and ownership on the part of all stakeholders. I want to seize this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Gambians Abroad and the Msdg project for their collaboration and support in organizing this consultative forum. Finally, I want to thank all of you for making time of your very busy schedule in the different geographic time zones to participate in this consultative forum. We thank you very much for your kind attention and for your participation. I thank you.
Thank you, Alaji, for this opening and welcoming remarks. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, PS Suleiman Omar Njai, was scheduled to speak next, but we understand he's running late. So with your permission, we will proceed to the next item. And whenever he catches up, we will allow him to deliver his remarks. Now, for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, we will continue this session by having a presentation done by Ms. Numbe Saho to explain to participants on this call the Msdg Diaspora Development Fund, which is being launched this afternoon, And most importantly, Nume's presentation would provide guidance to everybody on how to apply for co-financing of this financing facility. Thereafter, we would allow the lead consultant who's been commissioned with his team to lead the formulation of the two development planning frameworks, to give us a quick update on the diaspora strategy, as well as the RFNDP and LTDV 2050 processes, and he will be joined on this part of the consultation and the conversation by Professor Jibril Fall, who will specifically focus on the Gambia diaspora strategy. Thereafter, we will allow you to contribute in the form of discussions, questions, and answers that will focus both on these two planning frameworks as well as on the diaspora fund that is being launched today. At this stage, we will now invite our colleague, Ms. Numesaho, who's just recently, as I explained earlier, joining the MSDG team on secondment from the Office of the President, to do a presentation on the MSDG Diaspora Development Fund and on how to apply for co-financing. Nume, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, moderator, for those warm welcoming remarks. My name is Msdg Saho, as rightly been said. I'm the new technical director for Msdg project. I'll be taking you through on the Diaspora Development Fund, an explanation of what the fund is all about and how to apply for co-financing. First, let me take you through the context, the strategic context of the Diaspora Development Fund. The MSDG program is a part of the Migration and Sustainable Development in the Gambia project. And it's initiated and launched in 2017 by GT Partners. Msdg Diaspora Technical-Led Cooperation Program is co-financed by GT Partners, the government of Switzerland, and is implemented in partnership with the government of the Gambia. So this is just like a technical cooperation program, like the technical assistance program that we used to have. So it's a mode of financing that has been ongoing and welcomed by the government of the Gambia. So optimizing the diaspora work, we have a Gambia diaspora strategy was fully incorporated within the development plan. And it was declared as the A region of the Gambia, and the goal is to expand and enhance and optimize the role of the diaspora in national development as a valued partner. Actually, I must say that not only is it aligned to the national development plan, but MSDG strategy is also in line with the Sustainable Development Goal, as well as the African Agenda 2063, and also the EU agenda. So it's in line with global development agenda. So we also do co-financing and leverage to actualize the goals. And co-financing, co-funding facilities are made available to diaspora development practitioners to leverage and maximize the cost and in-kind resources. They invest in different forms of thematic areas, national and regional social economic projects and initiatives. The MSDG type of diaspora co-financing has committed to support and facilitate, among other things, civil society organizations, social impact projects, access to diaspora professional and experts, diaspora direct investment, and the MSDG Diaspora Fund will provide co-financing to 3 types of diaspora investment initiatives. The commitments, one of the commitments of the diaspora strategy is to create diaspora development fund. As we are here today trying to explain how this diaspora development fund works and how you also can apply for local financing. So I think it's a very important meeting today. So it will be very interactive in the end. We will be opening the line to anyone. You can interrupt me maybe if you want to clarify, but if you want also, you can wait until the end of the presentation and then ask. Actually, this co-financing provide co-finance for those 3 diaspora initiatives. So the diaspora development strategy, the diaspora development strategy is one of the commitments of that diaspora development strategy is to create diaspora fund. And for Gambian diaspora organizations involved in community, civil society, and social entrepreneurs and cooperative initiatives in different parts of the country. The diaspora fund will provide project co-financing, hometown, district, organized, sectoral non-profit diaspora group will apply for funding to leverage on this funding to supplement the resources they raise by themselves. So it's kind of a matching grant, if you like, a complement to your initiative and to support your initiative and the funds that are raised on your own to support this initiative. The diaspora entrepreneur and investor, the self-provide loan also with investment and other forms of investment. So it's quite open. So you can come with your own initiative and we can discuss on which particular modality suits your investment. And we also stimulate and expand job creation. The new purpose is to stimulate and expand job creation and social impact investment in the Gambia. So we also have the Global Compact for Migration. The Global Compact for Migration is a commitment consistent with the international framework on diaspora development. Objective 19, Section 45 of the National United Nations Global Compact, safe, orderly, and regular migration, commit UN members to develop targeted support programs, financial products that facilitate migration and diaspora investment and entrepreneur. Support in business creation, grant seed capital matching, establishment of diaspora development fund, build partnership with local authorities, local community, and private sector. So this is actually broad, meaning that all stakeholders can have a stake in this. It is open to all kind of investment, almost all kind of investment, as long as it is in line with the strategic goal of the program. The 3 pilots we have, as you are aware, the piloting of this Msdg Diaspora Development Fund started in 2020 to 2021. Actually, they have done so much during that period, and we have Msdg Development Fund was piloted and under the technical support scheme, and they provide cash, grants, and technical support where required. So this is just a build-up on the gains that was registered in the 2020 and 2021 pilot phase. So we are going to strengthen that phase and build on the gains and moving forward. So the scheme has supported a total of 10 Gambian diaspora experts and development practitioners, referred to as the diaspora fellows, who undertook projects in the Gambia in collaboration with all local partners, organizations, and initiatives. As we earlier said, the diaspora, the Msdg is partnering with all stakeholders that have the similar goal, is to strengthen and enhance diaspora participation in the program. So we work with civil society organizations, we work with the private sector, we work with government, we work with academia. So it is broad and open to all development partners. So the scheme is now fully incorporated in the Msdg Diaspora Development Fund. So the pilot scheme, financial leverage, under the pilot scheme, provided a total grant of 74,000 euros, which is almost equal to $4.7 million using the Msdg grant fund as leverage. The donations, technical expert on all kind of materials, supply and resource. So it is broad. It is through cost donation, technical expertise, and other in kind. So for every euro that was provided by the Msdg group, this pilot scheme generates
Sorry, Dumbe, can I interrupt?
Yes.
The sound quality is not very good. So as you had suggested, maybe you should switch off the video. That may improve the sound quality. Thank you.
And also, if she's presenting from a PowerPoint, can she just share the slides so we can follow up what she's saying?
Okay. Moderator, you can share the slides. Moderator, you can please share the screen for
you have sharing rights. Please go ahead.
Hello, are we all seeing the screen clearly from your end?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you. So as I don't know when, at what point you stop hearing from me clearly, but just maybe to continue for the benefit of time, since we can share this presentation with you. I was just saying that for the pilot scheme and financial leverage under the Diaspora provided a grant, that is under the first phase, provided grant totaling to 74,890 euro, which is close to 4.7 million Gambian dollars. This was done using the Msdg grant as leverage. The Msdg Fellow and Awards schemes successfully generated a further 10.2 thousand euros through cash donation, technical expertise, and in-kind materials. Every euro that the Msdg provided, the pilot scheme generated a further 9.4 euro. This demonstrates the resourcefulness of the commitment and also the productivity of the Diaspora Development Project. Subsequently, the pilot Msdg Diaspora Fund implement under the Gambian Diaspora Support Scheme provide other social investment in the Gambia, valued totally to 785,000 euro, in close to almost 49 million Gambian dollars. So on the pilot scheme award, under this scheme, Msdg Fellow and awardees comprising of 5 women and 5 men with bases in 5 countries, mainly US, UK, Norway, Saudi Arabia, and Nigeria, where received this awardee. So just to pause there and tell you that at the Msdg, we believe in leaving no one behind and inclusiveness. So we tend to make sure that we are gender sensitive, moving all the genders forward in national development. So we tend to have that balance all the time. So of the 10 fellows, 6 we are still residents in the diaspora, 4 we are recent returning to the Gambia. So the Msdg look at universal issues, inclusive. Whoever can contribute to national development will be welcomed by the initiative. So 10 Msdg fellow and awardees and their project are as follows. We have Ms. Saili Jallo of Ida Bass Kidney Foundation, their project for kidney and healthcare support during COVID-19. You also have another Amijaju, also of the Hands to Save Babies, the creation of Gambia Maternal Blood Bank. Mohamed Nasir Cham, also on the creation of new school IT sheets. You have Ahmed Imanjayang of Bonjour Youth for Health and Community Monitoring of Hypertension and Diabetes. You have Dr. Satan Nabane of Law Gambia, online legal information, the variety of job consultancy, the Gambian House, youth care and employability guidance and service. So, and also you have the institutional award to the Gambia National Assembly, supported by Planning Maron on parliamentary video conferencing, and also my TV. We have Ahmed Seka of Center for Responsible Business, Ethical and Responsible Business Plan Competition. We have Ms. Mamia Starfish International on project of youth digital literacy and capacity development. You also have the institutional award to the University of the Gambia Student Union, supported by Ambassador on University Scholarship Development Forum. So if you look at this intervention area, you tend to realize
Dumbe, just for the technical team at the MOFA offices, the quality is still poor. So if they can see what they can do in the next session to improve the quality of the sound. But it's good that we can now see your screen, so at least we can follow a bit more. Thank you. Proceed. Yes, you can proceed, please. Thanks.
Sorry for the poor quality of the audio. IT is at the background trying to support that. Thank you. So what I was trying to see is, if you look at all this intervention from the scheme, you realize that it is touching the key sectors of our community. Because it's inclusive, it's collaborative, we engage all stakeholders. We can forget the necessity, the needs of the community. We are trying to target addressing the needs of our society, targeting youth, targeting women, targeting health, targeting maternal issues, literacy, capacity building. These are key sectors of our society. So the project is actually complementing the effort of government and also strengthening those institutions for them to meet our development target. As the Msdg project is one of those critical enablers of the national development. So it's open. So what we are trying to show you here is just an example of what we've been doing. And just for you to come up with your proposal and apply. We want it to be diverse. So everything can fit into the scheme as long as it is geared towards enhancing diaspora participation, geared towards complementing national development. So it's broad, and you are all welcome to come with proposals from these different sectors of the economy. So these are just some of those diaspora technical support schemes undertaken by Gambians in the diaspora in different fields of our society. So now the Diaspora Development Fund, which is 2020-2023. As I mentioned earlier, we are leveraging on the first phase, which has actually been very successful. As you can see that it targets the real needs, and also we have very successful stories. We might not have the time to introduce all of them, but some of them are in. They can come in with their comments to explain how it definitely supported them. So we are trying to impact life of Gambian people and people living in the Gambia. So for the Diaspora Fund, the main purpose and aim is to use the financial and technical resource as practical means of stimulating, expanding and enhancing different forms of Gambian contribution to national development, which is rightly in line with the National Development Plan, in line with the strategy of most of the government public institutions, civil society, and also development plan. So the fund, the specific areas are expand project intervention in rural and urban Gambia, enhance collaboration and co-finance, co-working with local partners. So, and also increase cash and in-kind contributions and collective remittances from the diaspora. Leverage on diaspora resources and networks to increase resource mobilization and also facilitate, optimize the development benefit of the Gambian diaspora brain gain. Yes, these are the specific So it's all about networking, collaborating, coordinating all our efforts, both with our local partners, both with our development partners, civil society organizations, and also enhance diaspora to participate. Gambia now is aware that the diaspora have multifaceted skills. They are an endowment that Gambia is no more taken for granted. Is equal to some region in the Gambia. And records have shown that most of those in the diaspora are high-skilled Gambians who have a lot of expertise to offer. So government also is ready and in partnership to make sure that they harness all those potentials in national development. That is why we have in the program today, and Minister of Finance have dedicated a specific day today to make sure that in its formulation of the National Development Plan 2023 to 2027, as well as the long-term plan up to 2050, didn't leave the diaspora behind. So you are a viable 8th region of the Gambia that is now full-fledged part of national development. So from 10 to 55 co-financing awards, based on the success of the pilot program, the new Msdg Diaspora Fund was formally launched in 2020 January, building on 10 fellowships of the pilot project. The new program provides a total of 275,000 euros in cash co-financing for matching grant, which is almost close to 17 million, more than 17 million Gambian dollars to 55 Gambian diaspora, being average of almost like on average 5,000 euros per awardee. So, and the awardees are the recipients of these are expected to generate further matching funds to at least 15,000 euros to be able to roll out their program. So this is very interesting. It's just trying to motivate you to do your contribution to national development, to also add value to your community, to your society, to the Gambia at large. So it's a matching grant to encourage people investing back in the country. So the three categories of the awards of the Diaspora Development Fund for Financing or Matching Fund will be awarded to three categories of diaspora scholar, namely 30 individual professionals and experts working with partners in the Gambia. You have 15 diaspora organizations working on different aspects of rural development, and you have 10 impact entrepreneurs investing in different forms of job creation and development. So this, you need to take note of this. These are the target area. So it's all about supporting or complementing your initiative as well as partnering with the local community to sustain and enhance national development. So for the eligibility criteria, the main eligibility criteria to apply for these funds, or you say the co-finance or matching funds, you must be a Gambian citizen have returned to the Gambia in the past 5 years. So it's just for all of you almost. And the Gambian Diaspora Organization formally registered in the diaspora. So it is to Gambian citizens and also for organizations that have registration in the diaspora. So the project assignment in the Gambia, the project and assignment should be in the Gambia, creating jobs or other measurable positive social impact. So you need to kind of have a rationale behind your project and demonstrate how your project will contribute to national development or how your project will create jobs in the Gambia. The formal project partners in the Gambia, which can be civil society, NGO, government, or social entrepreneurs, social enterprise. So it means you need to have partners in the Gambia. And it's almost like everybody. Either one is civil society, non-governmental organization, Gambia government, or social enterprise. So you have to have a formal partner in the Gambia. Ability to generate co-financing, matching grant of 15,000 cash kind. So you must have to start an initiative. You must have to demonstrate it, your commitment from your personal savings or from you have to generate fund to justify your commitment to enter into this kind of initiative. So you also must have the ability to complete the project assignment within the framework of 12 to 26 months. As you are all aware, project is time bound, so you tend to want to just implement it in the time frame so that it will be in line with the matching grant, because the matching grant is targeting a specific period. Selection of the criteria. The Diaspora Development Fund Award Panel will be assess application and make recommendation based on the following criteria: feasibility, viability, sustainability of the proposal on the assignment. So as you can see, it's a catalog, meaning you start the initiative, but you start the initiative, implement it in such a way that even if you exit, your partner will be able to carry on the initiative for sustainability reason. You know, you don't just want to create jobs for someone after 26 months and you leave and they get jobless and go back to the market. So you tend to demonstrate the feasibility of your project in line, whether it's feasible to happen, viability is viable, and also sustainability is sustained even when the project exit. You must also have a development priority and impact on Gambia, especially in the rural areas. We are trying to diversify because we see that a lot of development support come into this country. They tend to just concentrate on the low-hanging fruit, that is in Greater Banjul area or very close proximity to Greater Banjul area because of access challenges. So Diaspora is trying to encourage you reaching the hard-rich areas, because we are trying to have a collective or inclusive growth. So we encourage people to go in the rural areas where the need is support are needed most, and also to look into hard-rich area, which we don't want to leave behind in national development. So we are encouraged to expand further in the rural area. Gender geographical diversity of the applicants. Rightly said there, diversity is very important. So we will want to encourage the not for programs to be concentrated in one area. We want them to be diverse in our different regions in the Gambia. So the level of co-financing, matching funds generated by the applicants. That's also one of the selection criteria. It's just to show commitment of the individual or the organization on their development program. So the level of co-financing also is a selection criteria. Level of innovation, transfer, and local partnership reflect in the project. As rightly mentioned again, your support is coming to complement government efforts. So we encourage also people to bring in innovation, learning by doing. We know that you are all experts in different areas, have a lot of skills. So government is trying to, with partnership with Msdg, to harness those expertise to the Gambia. So we want people to come with innovations, add value, and skill transfer, and also create local partners. Should be demonstrated in your result. Just to note that Msdg development sectoral priority for the project in the Gambia are medical health care, education, skill development, ITC, new technology, job creation, and diaspora investment. So your proposal should be trying to address those priority areas. In fact, if you look at it, it's almost everything. When you say skill development, you can say so many things about that. Health, care service, you talk of job creation, almost agriculture, everything fits into job creation. So you just need to tailor your application or your project proposal towards those priority areas, because these are gaps that have been reflected in the National Development Plan as areas that need a lot of skill transfer. The Msdg application process entails deploying steps and actions. Send an email to comms@gkpartners, comms@gkpartners.co.uk to receive the application form. So when you send an email to this email address, you will receive an application form, attend the application online, and then the application workshop on Sunday, 22nd May 2022 at 2:30 p.m. to 5. So if you send an application, we have an online workshop that we conducted. We have one in this coming month on the 22nd of May, 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. So you take note of those dates. You submit the complete application form and supporting document before midnight, 15 June 2020. So you have all this period to draft your application and submit it to be reviewed based on the criteria and upload. The PDF application submission, all application must submit the following by email or online. So your application should be online, not in person. So full complete and signed DDF application form, signed collaboration letter from partner organization in the Gambia. That is maybe an MOU between you and that partner in the Gambia. You need to have that document signed and part of your application. Up-to-date curriculum, resume or your CV of the individual leading the project and the assignment. The recent annual report and accounts for the organization, social enterprise, and business line. These are very important. This is a report just to demonstrate what you've been doing if you are an organization of the accounts, to demonstrate that you are committed to this, you have a lot of experience and add value on what we are doing. So the collaborative partners in the Gambia could include government ministries, department of agencies, state-owned enterprises. You have the NGOs, civil society organization, community organization, business networks, and social enterprise. So it's about all the stakeholders. You can have all of them. I think the only one I'm not seeing here, department agencies might be development partners. But as long as it's a Gambian-based community organizations, government ministry, department and agencies, and all businesses, you can partner with all of them for this kind of scheme. The selection process, the DDF selection process, involves the following steps and action. The initial administrative review, the MSDG staff will review the application to ensure that all the supporting documents are in order that are required, produce a long and short list of applicants using the selection award criteria. The review application will then be handed over to the DDP award panel process. So you can see that all the steps have this governance process. We will do the assessment, submit it for the panel that will review those processes, and then based on the award criteria. The review application will then be handed over to the DDF our panel for assessment and recommendation. If applicants submitted earlier, the MSDG staff may be able to advise applicants to make necessary adjustments in order to comply. So you are better off if you submit early and you know that you are missing one document or two. We will have the time to get back to you and advise on what else you need to do so that you don't fall out on the criteria mentioned above. So the assessment by the DDF award panel, which is the Diaspora Development Fund award panel, will assess the review application using the selection and award criteria. And the selection assessment involves member making the declaration that there is no material conflict of interest regarding them, and the DDF applicants and partners, individual reading, assessing, and making notes about the complete application form, CV, and resume, participating in the panel discussion about the applicant, making collective panel recommendations, providing selection reviews, and receiving for non-approval. So we just establish that the panel that selection will make a declaration that there is no material conflict of interest regarding their role during that assessment. So we're just trying to tell you the independence and the governance process of this awarding. The award recommendation, DDF award panel can make one of three recommendations, namely approval subjected to review, and non-approval. So you can have all these three fast response. We can approve straight away. If everything is complete and in line, we can approve subject to revision, meaning maybe there are things that we need clarity on. Either we get back to you, or we just reconfirm within the committee, or we can also have non-approval, meaning you fall to meet the criteria. If the revision recommend that a specific suggestion will be discussed and agreed with the staff, with the applicant, without any further reference, referral to the award panel. For the applicants that are not approved, the reason for non-approval should be provided by the award panel. So we will not just say non-approved and move on. We will tell you the reason why you didn't succeed, and this will help you better in the next scheme. So this will be communicated to all applicants as feedback. Recommendation of the panel is to be taken as final. If there are exceptional reasons to warrant a review of the recommendation, this will be taken by the senior DK partner personnel in consultation with the panel. So we assume that the recommendation of the panel is final until maybe on exceptional cases where we need to review. So composition of the DDF award panel. The DDF award panel is selected from the Msdg Project Advisory Board. As you are aware, we have a project advisory board that looks at the implementation of this project, look at the modalities and how we do things. So they will be doing the award selection. They comprise of experienced professionals who are familiar with Gambian diaspora development issues and the Msdg project. They include people from the diaspora, civil society organizations, business, and some public sector experts. So the PAB members includes the Director of Diaspora and Migration Directorate, which is Mr. Musa Kamara. He is the Deputy Permanent Secretary and representative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the panel. Then you have Ms. Fatou Jain Senna, human rights lawyer, development practitioner, chair of GRTS, and former regional director of Article 19. You have Ms. Hadila Minjai, development program, and finance specialist, former country director of PSO, Gambia, and former international civil servant, NDPFR. There you have Mr. Abdul Salam Seka, business and program development consultant, founding technical director. He was the one that was having my position at the Msdg project, and former CEO of GCCI. You have Dr. Sina Butal, researcher and specialist in migration and development, and former consultant for the Msdg project and IIF Gambia. Dr. Tal is the chair of the Diaspora Development Fund and our panel. So, two more panel members, program advisory board members are to be confirmed. They are specialists in rural and youth matters. So you can see the team of the program project advisory board. You have all facets of experience there, and they all capable enough with their experience and expertise in the area of diaspora and migration, as well as national development. So the DDF about management. The management of the Msdg Diaspora Development Fund Award entails the following main steps and actions. Signature of our contract between the DK partner, Msdg, and Msdg fellow. We have disbursement of at least 50% of the Diaspora Development Fund Award after signature of the contract. Then we have the submission of Diaspora Development Fund interim monetary report, expense receipts 35 days after the start date. Then you have the disbursement of the remaining Diaspora Development Fund after review and approval of the interim monitoring report. So you see the disbursement will come into tranches based on the progress that you are making. So we will be part of you. You are at your leverage to implement based on your project that was approved, but we will also be looking at your monitoring report to see level of progress there in order to disburse the different tracks. Diaspora Development Fund final report and expense receipt. 21 days after the project completion. That's the last disbursement. Ongoing participation in diaspora, publicity and public communication and case study analysis. So these are the steps during the implementation. If you receive the award, this is how we expect the disbursement to happen and the period. So take note of those periods and the disbursement amounts. This is actually based on how we think your project will start. As we say, 50% is to give you half of the amount we start, and as you move on in implementation, the other 20 will be disbursed based on the level of progress. Msdg is very flexible in terms of how the funds are used, as long as they are used 100% on activities and expense relating to the implementation of the approved, as you are saying, approved project, meaning that you take note of the project you submitted, it will be in line with the project. Like projects are program-based, meaning you cannot go in the middle of the project and try to change the project or transform the project beyond the scope and the context of the project. You know, sometimes it's difficult because as the program is signed, it will be audited based on the agreement that we have. So we are flexible on how to use the fund, but make sure that it is in line with the approved assignment that was agreed with Msdg. So the staff at the Msdg will be available to give advice on eligibility of costs. So there will be review of the costs for no objection and other operational matters. So we well assured that we are there to support you. So if you need the Msdg staff, we are ready to give advice on that matter to ensure smooth implementation of your project. So I would like to stop here and thank all of you for listening and also for welcoming me. In fact, I just started this week, and this is my first engagement. So you can see we have the Msdg group behind. We have the program director, Professor Fal. He's at the background for your questions and answers. He's a global expert when it comes to migration and development. And you also have Pa Musa, who is the face of Msdg, well experienced on the matter of the strategy. So we are just going to pause here and welcome your questions, answers, and clarity on anything that was presented or have not been presented. But just for you that we can also have one-to-one at the project to advise on anything that you might want to get clarity on later. So thank you so much, and over to the moderator, Samar.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Saho. You may now bring down your presentation. I'd just like to reiterate that we will be sharing this presentation. It has been shared on the chat box, but we'll also be sharing it again on a lot of outlets. So please look out for it. And also, we would just like to acknowledge again with thanks that this event is being live streamed by iAfrica TV Online, and they are doing it simultaneously on a lot of other social media platforms, such as Facebook and so forth. So please share it with your networks. It's not too late for them to connect and join and participate in this very exciting event. We also have Kirfatu, who's also live streaming, and would like to welcome them and thank them for joining us. We are running a little bit behind schedule in terms of the agenda for today. So we will proceed quickly to the questions and answers session on this presentation that's just been completed. Again, thank you, Numbe. What I propose we do is we'll take a set of questions, allow the team from Msdg to share their perspectives, and then if there are more, we will take another set. Already we have Mr. Ali Unyasi and Mr. Bakari Sonko Their hands are raised. And participants, please raise your hand. Use the hand icon on the Zoom if you want to send your if you want to make contributions or you want to ask questions. You may also use the chat box. We will be monitoring it. If you don't wish to speak and you just wish to send in your comments or your questions. So over to you, Mr. Ali Nyasi. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Ali Nyasi, President and Chair of Yes Africa Foundation, a newly founded organization registered in the Gambia to provide, and Yes Africa stands for Young Enterprise Services Africa Foundation, geared to creating employment, social enterprise development for young people in the Gambia. My question goes back to the 12 to 6 weeks implementation or completion. I don't know why it is 12 to 6 weeks, because when Mrs. Saho was presenting, she alluded to 26 months, but I hear more in writing, it says 26 weeks. I'm not sure how a project can be completed within 12 to 26 weeks. That is within 6 months. The other question I have also is about the flexibility of the usage of funds. I think that a lot of development programs in the Gambia fail, and in development countries fail because we give a lot of leeway that people can change their course while inside the project. I think the flexibility part, for the simple fact that you cannot get funding and you write a proposal to be funded for a certain thing, and then you dip into it, there's leeway for you to change course, to do things the other way around. So I think that we have to be very strategic. If you are applying for this funding, for this program, it has to be for this program, versus having the flexibility for you to change and bring in something else that is not working.
Thank you, Aliu. We will now take the comments from Mr. Sonko. You're muted, Bakari. Please unmute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So my name is Dr. Bakari Jarlo Sonko. I am speaking from the United States, Denver specifically. I want to thank the presenters and all of you for this wonderful program. And I'm sure if it works well, it will be good for the Gambia, and it will bring a lot of development opportunities to the Gambia. My comment is, as Aliu has stated, I think 12 to 26 weeks is a very short time for programs that are geared towards development. So I think maybe there's an error there in terms of weeks or months, whatever it is, but I think 12 to 26 weeks is very small window in terms of project completion, depending on the sort of development programs that you are talking about. I have initiated a program with fellow Gambians, some here in the diaspora, some in the Gambia, and it is building a laboratory. It is laboratory concerning about health issues in the Gambia, and that's what my question is about. If one wants to go into that sort of business, that is a long-term business. It's not one thing, and it has to be done on a time scale which is much more than just the 12 to 26 weeks. I'm concerned about that, and I just want to raise that issue. The second question that I have is, if one already starts a project, how do you accommodate such individuals who are already in the process of implementing that project in terms of the grant that is available for application? Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Sonko. We'll now take the question or comments from Mr. Drame. You have the floor, please.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Msdg Drame. I am from Brikama Nema Diaspora Group. Brikama Nema Diaspora is a community-based organization founded here in Madison, Wisconsin. We work directly in collaboration with Nema Kabila Development Association, which is located in Brikama. So we've been working with them over the last year and have a number of initiatives that are currently ongoing. And I just want to comment on the project duration that was mentioned here by the two that were here before me as far as the project duration goes. So I have two questions. One is our project is for 3 to 5 years, and we are already into our second year and have put in at least $2 million and installed over 200 solar street lights. And we're on track to increase that by the end of this month. So with that in mind, like we're targeting 3 to 5 years, and if I heard you correctly, you said something about a duration of 26 months. So if, for example, we apply for funding and our project needs to go beyond the 26 months limit, is there a potential to review that project and extend it? Is that one of your plans going forward? I guess that's the point that I wanted to clarify. And also, if you could tell us what the threshold amount is as far as funding is involved in terms of individual projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mustafa Rame. Now, we give the floor to Representative Samba Balde. Sabalde, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you. Let's see.
Mr. Balde, can you unmute yourself?
Thank you, Samba, and thank you everyone for putting this together. My name is Samba Balde. I am state representative here in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you for putting this together. So my first question really is engagement and outreach. If one of you can really speak to, the strategy that you have in place to engage diaspora. I mean, if you can clearly spell that out, and so what I have struggled with over the years is how to be connected to Gambia in terms of, areas of interest for investment and things like that. So if you can walk us through that either during this meeting or sometime later as to how you really are engaging the Gambian diaspora, I think that would be excellent. The other thing is you talked about the review panel for applications. And again, I have to sit down and read the whole document. I mean, it was all over. I couldn't make too much sense of the presentation because of the audio. But I'd be interested to see whether or not there are any diasporan representatives. So, for example, if the review panel all are Gambians, sometimes I think somebody who lives abroad or who's been dealing with the kind of project that may be submitted to you, it's important to have such people in the review panel for these applications. So the other thing is that what is your social media, or I would say online presence? I mean, I think it is important for me to be able to go to a website and be able to read all that you are doing and what, my interest is, if it is, to be able to reach out. So what is your social media presence, but also your online presence? So the other thing that I want to advise against is the on-fly changes. Some people have expressed concerns about the time period. I think if we have to do anything, or if you have to do anything, it is important that you sit and review it so that it's not just something Ross. 2 days, 3 days, 1 year down the road, we realize that these are not working. And some of the few things that you emphasize is sustainability. And there cannot be sustainability if there's no thorough examination of what you are doing and making sure that this is in fact exactly what needs to happen. So I hope, with the timeline and all this other stuff, that a lot of thinking, strategizing, discussion goes into it, so that when it is presented to partners and consumers of these products, that it is well thought through, because that's the only way you can bring about sustainability and things of that nature. But I'll go through the document. The other thing that I wanted to find out is, after going through the document, if I have suggestions, I know you guys shared an email address for application, but I've not seen any emails that have been shared in terms of, conversation. I see that a website is also been thrown out and things like that. So those were my comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Samba Balde. We have a question online on the chat from Mr. Mohamed Nai. His question is, how much attention is given to young people who don't have enough entrepreneurial training, but are very much passionate and have great initiatives? We will now, please make note of that question from Mohamed Nai. We will now invite the gentleman identified on the Top Games Hamburg. You have the floor, sir.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me well?
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Good evening. Sorry, it's my son's game name. Sorry. I'm very pleased to be here today. My name is Mr. Ndao, Dudu Ndao in the United Kingdom. I have been, of course, in Gambian politics in the past, and also very particular and keen about diaspora inclusion. I currently work in partnership with Center for Sustainable Development in the Gambia, Msdg, and basically the whole intention or involvement in this project interest is for us is really to ensure that some laws in the Gambia is changed through, of course, Parliament as the legal framework to include diasporans to be able to be involved in governance, and also to be able to help to change culture of governance. As we all know, the predicament of the 22 years and where we need to be compared to where we are today. So that is why I'm just asking for, of course, 5,000 euros is been put into support for project of trying to do whatever individual or organizations or partners want to do. My question is there any chance of course, looking at projects based on what individuals and partners want to do, and looking at their costing to look for the adjustments where necessary, if deemed, of course, necessary by the Msdg project. So where an increment can take place, for example, what we want to do cannot be done, of course, with 5,000 euros over a year or over 6 months even. So this is my question to the panel, if there is any answer to be given on the regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. We will now have the question or comment from Musa.
Thank you very much, guys. And obviously, my name is Musa from UK, and I've obviously joined in and listened to the presentations. And this initiative seems to be a great initiative, especially for the diaspora. but I've got some few concerns in regards to the implementation and the team that have been identified to monitor and evaluate the outcome of the project that is going to be implemented by the people who are going to put their projects in. And first of all, my first observation is the circulation of the information and the outreach input that it has for the diasporans to be able to participate to such a usefully important project that I'm sure many will be interested. As obviously we know there are so many projects going on. Some of them obviously have phased out or are about to phase out due to obviously some funding issues or probably lack of participation from Gambians in the Gambia as well. So what obviously my concerns are, obviously the monitoring team that and the people that have been identified to obviously look at the evaluations and the applications, seems to be all engaged in bigger projects. Yes, their input and their expertise will be needed. But in terms of doing the proper evaluation, I think that is obviously going to be important for you to look at the people who will have time. Because my concern here will be, such a magnificent project to come in, and then obviously you have people who will be sitting in Banjul just ticking the boxes. And obviously the money will not be, the projects will not reach out to the people that need it most. And then eventually it becomes a project that is only identified for the few, and obviously all the beneficiaries who should have obviously benefit from the project will not benefit from it. And then obviously further going down the line, it can become just like a club where it is just there for certain people to utilize the benefit of obviously this MSD fund that is obviously to be implemented by the diaspora and the Gambians. So I think, again, yes, I don't know why the time frames are given now. Is it obviously the funders have given a time frame that this should be implemented ASAP? Because I think obviously we should have the time to go through this document and obviously come for another meeting and obviously inform our friends and families as well who we felt are involved in this kind of project, because not everybody have the opportunity. I mean, I'm glad to hear from the moderator saying that some media outlets are covering it. But obviously these kind of things, unless people are aware or obviously word of mouth are given to them for a better explanation, sometimes they will not see the value of it. So for me, I would suggest that you give us the time to go through the documents properly. And then obviously when we convene another meeting, we will be able to ask questions that we feel will be relevant so that we can have a successful implementation of this project. And it could be an ongoing one for Gambians to benefit and the diaspora also to obviously see that they are ready to invest their resources to help our own people to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Musa. We will now take 2 more questions. One is posted on the chat, and it is from Adam Jallo Jane, the president of the Foundation for Epilepsy and Stigma Support. The question from Adam is whether the funds will be provided by the funds that are being provided by MSDG. Will it be in the form of cash, or can it be in the form of technical support from partners in the diaspora? That is Adam's question. Now we will take Modu Cham, and then we will allow the MSDG to share their perspectives on what has just been raised by participants of this call. Okay, Adam, you seem to have lost the other participant. Adam, please go ahead. You have an
Hello, good evening, and thank you so much for this initiative. I just wanted to rectify that. I know we're running late on the program. That my question is, From what I can understand from Numbe is as an organization, we're supposed to be matching the funds that are being provided by government. Now, an organization like mine, yes, we probably don't have funds that we have got in cash in a bank, but we do have partners who are willing to support improve epilepsy care in the Gambia and can provide, and they're already doing it, technical support in terms of training and diagnostic materials, tools and stuff like that. So my question is, can we give that as a matching fund to show as evidence that yes, we can do this? That's my question, not whether the assistance that's going to be given, will it be in the form of technical support? If I've made myself clear. Thank you.
Very clear, Adam. Apologies for getting your question wrong. Thank you for the clarification. We will now have Modu Chan ask his question or make comments, and then we will allow MSDG to share their perspectives. Go ahead, Mr. Chan.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be part of this very important gathering. I'm Modu Cham, calling from the Gambia, the Department of Community Development. I have some little concern with regards to how the local organizations and CBOs that are registered in the Gambia can have timely access to this fund as far as development is concerned. Because if I could understand it, it is like they can only have access to these funds for development projects by creating partnership with registered, diaspora organization, which I feel would have limit timeliness and the effectiveness in terms of project implementation. Whether it's not possible to identify at least one popular CBO in the Gambia or one department in the Gambia, but especially the Department of Community Development, that are day in, day out working with the CBOs, the rural communities, the urban communities, trying to address their felt basic needs as far as life and livelihood is concerned. This is little concern that I have, but I'm very much pleased to be part of this very important gathering. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Mr. Chan. And I'll just quickly slot in one question for the government, which is, does the matching fund also apply for privately owned social enterprises? I will now hand it over to Numbe, Prof, and other members of the MSDG team. Prof, would you like to start?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Samba, and thank you everyone for the questions. I am mindful of the time, and we still have another session on the NDP, but I would respond to the questions asked. Before that, I would mention that the first thing is, as some people are suggesting, we have already scheduled that 2 weeks from today, that is Sunday, the 22nd of May, the same time slot, 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. GMT, which is Gambia time, we'll have another workshop which would be dedicated entirely just to discussing the application form. By that time, many people who are interested would have not only read the outline that have been circulated and will circulate it further, but they would have also seen the application form. So that workshop would be a technical workshop, effectively helping people on how to complete the application form. Second point is that this Diaspora Development Fund set up by MSDG is in no way an answer to many of the development and financing needs we have. It is a very small part of it, but we felt that it's important to do it as an example to encourage central government, development institutions, new diaspora technical cooperation programs, and many others to set up different forms of co-financing. Right now, the co-financing environment in Gambia is it's tough. You don't see many co-financing projects that exist, and those that target specifically the diaspora are virtually non-existent. So this will not in any way solve many of the problems. It's a start to hit the targets of stimulating, expanding, and enhancing different forms of diaspora productive engagement in Gambia. Mr. Nyasi and Dr. Jalosonko both raised the question, and I think someone else and Mr. Drame, about the timing. Yes, it is for 12 weeks to 26 weeks. That means 3 months to 6 months. And you can see in relation to the financing, the co-finance we're providing, it's not a lot of money. It's 5,000 euros. I think that's about $6,000 or thereabouts, and about 4,300 pounds. So the projects, the intention is for people to devise projects that can stand alone and happen within that time period, because we don't have a lot of money to give, so we're not asking for huge projects. And does this approach make sense? Well, we've tested it. We did a pilot project where we funded 10 projects, and yes, many of them were able to do it within the 6-month period. But we keep in mind and note what is being said to perhaps see whether there is a leeway, if someone hasn't finished their project in 6 months' time, whether there would be room for extension for another month or so. Now, another reason why we're going for this very specific timing is the Msdg project is also running on time cycles. Our current project cycle would finish in about 2 years' time. That is in June of 2024, meaning we would have wrapped up everything within the life of the project, maybe around April of 2024. And in line with the thinking and our belief that there should be so many different types of diaspora co-financing, we think we should do the project quickly, further demonstrate, as we've shown with the pilot, that there is not only appetite for this, but that every €1 you give to a diaspora organization, you are likely to get very many more euros. And that means there may be perhaps other rounds of funding. So that's the idea. Now, in relation to Nyasire's the point about flexibility, I can confirm, as Ndumbe had mentioned, that the flexibility does not relate to the project that you've designed. So the project you design and it's approved, that is what we would expect you to implement. That is it. So in fact, there isn't major flexibility in that. The flexibility of the Msdg co-financing is that it is less restrictive. So in project funding, we talk about restricted and unrestricted funding. Many people go and are given funding, and the funding would say, you can only spend this, for example, on capital goods, say to buy desks or equipment. Or they would say, you cannot use this to buy goods or equipment. Or they would say, you cannot use this to pay for travel. Or they would say, you cannot use this to do this or to do that. That's the restriction we are taking away. So this funding does not have that restriction. It is flexible in terms of what you need to use it. But of course, the caveat being 100% on the project and 100% on the project as agreed. In the pilot phase, I'll give you an example of how this flexibility can be useful. So we may approve for you to give you the money, say you want to buy Dr. Jalosonko, who wants to do labs, gives an example. We may provide funding, say 5,000 euros towards buying some lab equipment. And before the process finishes, he actually gets those lab equipment donated for free. For us, we have flexibility for that money to be used for something else within the life of the project, maybe to pay for the freight of the equipment. So that's the flexibility in terms of lack of restriction. So the strict language for it is not flexible funding, it's unrestricted funding. That's the technical term for it. There's a question as to existing projects, whether they can be funded. Yes, you can see, given the size of the project, that we would fit in. We expect that many of the successful applicants would be ones that are perhaps already doing things. We've seen that in the pilot phase, but we don't want to exclude those who are starting afresh as well. But we would then ask the ones that are already doing something to design a project which will add value to what the 5,000 can do. We're expecting a matching of at least 15,000. I am sure that some, maybe roughly 25 to 30% of the successful applicant will actually leverage and raise significantly more than the 15,000 that we're asking for. But we're asking for the project, want to design it within the parameters of effectively short to medium term intervention of a maximum of 6 months, bring your co-financing, have the expanded impact, as it were. And Adam asked the question, can that co-financing be in the form of in-kind? And the answer is absolute yes. This is again part of the flexibility of our funding, because many times the input of the diaspora and community organizations are undervalued simply because they're not providing cash. So the funder that provides cash tend to have all the kudos and all the credit. Yet the people who are volunteering their time, which has monetary value, or they are giving physical resources, equipment, or you have doctors or scientists giving their time, all of them are of value to the project, and they need to be counted. And we have methodology on how to value that. So in the case of, for example, if you have an epilepsy consultant who's providing, say, 10 days of voluntary consultation traveling to Gambia, that person, we will know what is the average daily income for that type of work. And that would be the rate that would be used to validate. So we have methodology on that. And I think that also partly answers Mr. Drame's questions, who also have an ongoing project, and will say, encourage you to design something where we fit in and just add value and help you expand what you're doing. The State Senator Balde from Wisconsin also asked about the outreach and the members of the selection panel, as it were. I'm noting that for this webinar, those who are directly linked in is 115. We're broadcasting it on different platforms, and we're asking all of you and every one of you and everyone else to help circulate and this information. We will take the next 2 weeks to, again, take out more advertisements in the online newspapers and the newspapers to get it out, to get more people to know, because we are convening, as we say, on the 22nd of May, so that more people can participate and know. And one of the benefits of voting is people can then know only how to apply, but they can also make the decision that they cannot apply because they don't fit the criteria, because this will not work for everybody. It will not work for everybody. And even of all of those who meet the criteria, there would be a degree of selection because we don't have all of the funds. We have 55 grants to give of about 5,000 euros each. And I think it's Mr. Ndau who had asked, can it be more? Generally speaking, the answer is no. It cannot be more than 5,000 euros because that's what we have. And we would be very pleased if people apply for less than 5,000. But in our pilot phase, we saw that everybody, of course, applied for the maximum available because their cash requirements is far more than what is even being available. And for the state senator, yes, I can confirm, as you perhaps would have seen already, that the members of the advisory board from which we would select the panel include people from the diaspora as well as people from Gambia. And we've set out the criteria. Of course, one need not agree with all of these criteria because we never agree on everything perfectly, but we set out the criteria so that we all know on what objective criteria we're working on. And we have the criteria we've set out here is informed by empirical evidence in that we ran a pilot scheme for nearly 2 years, 18 months, and we went through supporting organizations 10 and saw them come out the end with their huge impact, as it were. Then I think there's a couple more questions. And one of the questions written down about young entrepreneurs who, if I understand the question, they may not have the connection or the resources. And the question is sort of where do they sit? That question, together with Mr. Cham's question about the organizations in Gambia who technically cannot apply, the question is, what do we do with that? So again, I repeat that this project is not covering everything. It is targeting the diaspora. And perhaps for that reason, let me give another reason or reiterate what many of us know as to the justification for giving this extra leverage to the diaspora. Number one, it virtually is non-existent. So in Gambia, here and then you have some funding available and some match funding. But a match funding diaspora development program for diaspora entrepreneurs or individual experts is virtually non-existent. And we know that the productivity and the impact of the diaspora is far, far more than average. And this is not just unique to Gambia, this is universal, confirmed by studies, including those studies undertaken by McKinsey, showing the productivity and the high level of impact of the diaspora. So whatever stimulation you give it, you are gaining a payload significantly more than average. So it pays to stimulate and to invest in the diaspora. But since the Gambia is so touched by migration and diaspora, virtually there's nobody or no organization who doesn't have a link or connection to the diaspora. So what I can say to Mr. Now, or the question about young people who want to participate, the MSDG staff would be happy to hear from you. And if you cannot find a match in the diaspora, we may be able to help you, link you up to a potential match. But it shouldn't be too difficult to find a match. And I think the exercise of trying to find a diaspora partner in that sense is also useful and demonstrate not only interest, but commitment and diligence to do the work. On the other side, the diaspora must do that. So every applicant must find a local partner, because otherwise the application will not even go through the second stage. It wouldn't be complete. So one must have a local partner, and it just has to be a genuine partner. As Ndume noted, perhaps the only ones ruled out are the international development agencies, but almost every other form of Gambian organization would qualify, as it were. And just looking at my notes in terms of questions, I think perhaps we've covered everything. And there was some sort of concern, I think it was Musa, my colleague from the UK, about whether the selection panel, I think the idea is, would they really know what's happening at grassroots level? And the answer I would give is yes. Everybody we have here, and there are two other people who would join. We couldn't publish their names today because we still have to finalize them. But one is a specialist in rural development and the other is a specialist on youth matters. And the issue of gender diversity, we try not to even make that standalone. We try for that to be sort of cross-cutting and assumed. But as we all know in Gambia, sometimes it's very difficult to attain, to get similar number of women to participate. So in some cases, it has to be absolutely deliberate to find women. But in this case, your project, say we have 55 funding and we have 100 projects. Effectively, they are competing. And the ones will get it are the ones that score the highest on that criteria we set, from sustainability, feasibility, to the level of innovation, to the level of skills transfer, to the level of amount of finance they are going to bring. And the selection team would be helped by the paid staff in the office to do all of the initial technical work, and they would be convened as a panel. You've seen in the criteria, first, they would have to satisfy themselves that there is no conflict of interest. For example, their friend or sister is not one of the applicants. Of course, you should know that Gambia being how small it is, it will not be possible to say that the panel will not know any of the applicants. That's out of the question. We will know each other. So it's all about following the criteria. And our starting point, and unless there's evidence to suggest otherwise, is the integrity and the professionalism of everybody. That's what's assumed. And all of these criteria help it, unless there's reason to believe otherwise. That's the basis that we would operate on. So Samba, just to conclude, repeat that date, look out for the links for 2 weeks from today, 22nd of May. Please circulate with as many organizations as possible and send us the email so that we send the application form. And also having experience in this, not only in Gambia, but in very many other countries. Also, that's why we're even asking people to take the trouble to ask us for the application form, because diligence and spending time to do the work is absolutely important. And it is not as easy as can be assumed, because all of us are so very busy. So that's why we are asking people to join really from now. Tell people, join us again in 2 weeks' time, get your forms. And if we successfully move from where we were 10 to 55, my point is we must push to try to find the monies for a bigger part. And in case you missed the point, this funding is coming through our partnership with the government of Switzerland. So they are the co-financers of the MSDG project. The government of the Gambia is an implementation partner, and as we work now, but the cash is coming from GK Partners and the government of Switzerland. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Prof. We would now go, we have about 70 minutes to the end of this event. We would now go to listen to Dr. Ahmed Tijan Jallow, who would be doing a presentation on the NDP, RFNDP and long-term development vision 2050 processes. And we would encourage Doctor to, if he can do it under 15 or within 15 minutes. And we would also encourage Prof to do it, his presentation within 15 minutes. And then we will use the other 40 minutes for discussions and sharing of perspectives. So over to you, Dr. Jallow. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, and quite excited to take part in this forum. But I'm even more excited that we may be able to get the inputs and the views and contributions from the diaspora into this planning frameworks that government has launched. So really very excited about it. The last time around, I think with the support of the MS project, there was an introduction of diaspora issues in the national development framework for the first time. Now, what we envisage this time around really is to make sure that it's not just inputs into diaspora matters, but into the whole focus for the national development of the country, the plan itself and the long-term vision. So we want to make sure that we go beyond contributing just to that diaspora matters, but really to all issues relating to national development, and that is quite exciting for us. And I hope, as Samba and Alaki have mentioned, this is just the first of engagements that we have with you, and hopefully we can agree on how we will relate over the next 6-7 months. Very quickly, because of
Dr. Jallo, we're having problems with the sound. So as was advised before, perhaps all of us can switch off our videos. Hopefully that would help.
You are hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Share with you the short PowerPoint presentation that lays out the process, how we are going about it, so that we are all on the same page and we can all see where and when we can and how we can contribute to the process. And as just quick background, as Samba has mentioned, this is a national development plan that seeks to integrate the challenge of recovery from COVID, but also from climate change. So instead of Gambia developing multiple frameworks and plans and whatnot, the idea was that let us have a medium-term plan that integrates the short, medium, and long-term needs for recovery from the pandemic and also address climate change. That's why you have this mouthful of name added. And I'm sure we'll find a more catchy phrase as we go down the line. So that's where we're starting from. Just to keep it short, 4 main steps that have been taken to develop this plan is to take stock, number 1. What has been done? Where are the policy frameworks? What are the gaps? Are we in line with the good things that are being done locally, in our neighborhood, regionally and globally? What is it that we can learn, and what have we learned from implementing past development initiatives in this country, so that we begin to see and gather ideas on what went right, what went wrong. The second pillar of the work that we are doing is the stakeholder consultation side of things, the ones that we are having today. And here I will go into it a little bit. Third element is the formulation of the strategy itself, and the plan itself, and the future itself. And finally, validation and finalization and adoption at the country, both the mid-term plan as well as the long-term. So we want, in particular, that inputs into stages 2, 3, and 4, and we make sure that we involve you and engage in these different processes. Now, in terms of the consultations, the main idea is to get multiple perspectives from multiple groups of citizens of the country, and make sure that all views are brought on board, regardless of your perspective, that we hear, we listen. So it's a team that's really doing a lot of listening around issues of concern to different stakeholders. At the top, the political process, we looked at their political stakeholders. We've already held meetings with the inter-party committee, a very constructive and useful meeting. And we have asked that all political parties provide for us their manifestos so that we see what is it in their areas of interest to integrate into the national development plan, because the plan is for everyone. We are moving now to meet with the National Assembly shortly in the next couple of weeks, so that we also listen to them in terms of what their views and thinking is. And of course, the executive branch of government, which would be NDC. Then we have technical level discussions where we are meeting with all the 78 ministries, departments, and agencies in this country in the form of sector working groups, in order to, from their technical assessment and analysis and policies that they're implementing now, what is useful. Then we have the interest groups, national as well as outside, like diaspora. And here we are talking about the private sector. We have already met with the private sector, civil society, organizations, met with the persons with disability, we've met with the media, and we are going to be meeting other interest groups and professional associations, trade unions, etc., etc. And in this group also, we are just about to finalize a list of prominent Gambians in business, in law, in medicine, in technology, innovations, etc., whom we can conduct one-on-one interviews so that we start their interest in the process. And finally, most importantly, grassroots consultations. As Mr. Pereira has mentioned, we have visited all 120 wards in this country. I think the first time it has been done. We spent a day in each ward, we had focused discussions with women, youth, men, council of elders, etc., and entirely to understand the issues and challenges that they are facing, and what needs to be.
No, sorry, I understand you're having challenges hearing me. Hello, is it better now?
Yes, now we can hear you, but yes, it does get very poor.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. The grassroots, as I say, is the other layer that we have actually completed, having discussions and dialogue and conversation with. And we've looked at all the wards that are bothering, that are on the border with Senegal, so that we understand what are the kinds of issues and challenges that they face as communities living on the border. We also made systematic efforts to reach all the riverine wards that exist along the River Gambia. Those used to be very thriving communities, but they have declined substantially. And one of the things that really need to be looked at seriously is how we revitalize river transport and the economy, local economy of these riverine communities, be it through fishing, business, tourism, whatever. So we wanted to hear their views on it. And then, of course, the urban and the rural wards. The data has all been collected now, and we have completed 7 regional reports. Each region in the Gambia has now a report on what are the major priorities of the communities, and we are synthesizing that into a report, which will also be available. I think, by the way, just to emphasize that we'll be posting a lot of the material that has been generated onto the portal that has been created, so that everybody can see what is it that is being said and from what perspective is being done. So we are now also synthesizing a national report for the national level stakeholder consultations, so that we have the views from the trade unions, etc., etc., etc. And all of this will be brought together to provide the material along with or based on which we will do the drafts for the national development plan. And on your screen here, you just see some of the plan consultations and what they will be doing. I think tomorrow we have work to do with women, youth, and the elderly in a workshop in order to get the views and inputs from that constituency. And we have a timetable that we have set up for all of these meetings. You will see that in the PowerPoint when it is shared with you. I just want to quickly show you some of the areas of inquiry and discussions we had with communities at the ward level, the 120 wards, covering almost 3,000 people. Livelihood activities, poverty, food and nutrition, access to education, access to health, energy, electricity, waste disposal, affordable housing, land ownership, agricultural inputs, environment and disasters, access to justice and security, the status of women, youth, children, sports, creative arts and culture, persons with disability, migration, remittances, and the impact of COVID. So we have data sets for all 120 wards about what people are telling us are the main challenges and their recommendations as to what government should do to address these issues. And finally, we ask their views on the long-term vision, the long-term vision for the Gambia, also the top priorities they want to see government implement in the NDP over the next 5 years. So all that is available. Now, the diaspora, of course, is an extremely important constituency. And there are 2 or 3 things that we want to explore with the diaspora. And I'm very glad that I listened to the earlier parts of the conversation, which matches very well with what our thinking was, that we need to identify certain channels around which the talent, resources, and the capacities of the diaspora can come in support of national development. How we do that, I think it's a good start from the MSDG project, but listening to the feedback and the plans, and I think we really need to upscale that project significantly and see how we can get new partners to come on board beyond the government of Switzerland. And I think it will be exciting to work with Professor Fall on seeing how very successful pilot can be significantly scaled up. So we are looking at that, and we would like your ideas and your feedback on that. We have identified 4 areas where we think we need to pilot at least and see success in them to begin with, on a scale that would have an impact. And that is on investment, on health, on education, and on technology. There are many other areas that you may recommend that we put in, but we are strongly of the view that let us start small with a limited number of programs that are up to scale, that require a lot more resources, and see how that works out before we go further in many other areas. So this will be part of the conversation that we hope to be continuing to have with the diaspora. We have set up sector groups. We have set up sector working groups who will now take all the material that has been collected and synthesize. It's part of life. And synthesize, and this multidisciplinary working groups will bring together governments, civil society, private sector, NGOs, CSOs, and individuals who have the capacity and the willingness to contribute, so that we can sit with them and see what the priorities should be based on the feedback that we are getting and the analysis that has been done. One of the failures of the last NDP was linked more to the fact that there wasn't an effort to go into sufficient detail on the how. How are you going to implement the things that you said you want to do? So we hope this time around that for each sector and for each target, for each priority, efforts will be made to lay out a roadmap and the details in terms of how you are going to achieve it. If you say you are going to achieve 140,000 tons of rice by the end of the plan period, you want to know exactly how are you going to achieve it. Are you going to support some private sector operators to come in together with the small-scale farmers to do it? What are the kinds of financial mechanisms you are going to put in place to make sure that people access finance and seeds and inputs, etc., etc.? So we want these kinds of things to be worked out in detail so that people can be held accountable. At the end of the day, we know where the weaknesses are and where the successes are. So that will be a major part of what these sector working groups will be doing and sharing with everybody so that we look whether these things are realistic or not. The work plan, we hope by July, we should be able to produce and finalize the NDP. And this is, and then of course the long-term vision towards the end of the year. Normally, logically, we should have done the long-term vision first and then do the medium-term plans. But the reason why the NDP is being fast-tracked is because we want to make sure that once the budget cycle starts in July for government, that it is the priorities of the NDP that will drive what ministries and line ministries put in the national budget. It's about time that we start financing part of our development. We cannot just continue to rely on donor funding to do that. Look at the contributions from diaspora, it's $700 million. That is 10 times, 20 times what development partners combined bring to this country in 1 year, or even in 10 years, I would say. So that, together with our own national fund from the taxes, if wisely used, I think we would be heading towards substantial domestic financing of our priorities. And that should really be the goal for everyone. And unless we provide the priorities to government at the time of preparing the budget, we come back and say that, well, you are late in terms of what we can include in the budget or not include in the budget. So we will make sure that by that time the plan is ready, and that's why we want to fast track the NDP so as to. It's a good start. Government has made a good start in that, in terms of some of the road infrastructure, but we wanted to go into other sectors like health and education. The investments in the national budget in health and education are really pitiful, and there has to be a change in that. Many partners are working with us. I forgot to mention the Msdg project for the external partners, the UN system, multilateral financial institutions, etc. All of them are working with us in this, with the Ministry of Finance, the team led by Alhaji Fadera. One of the things that we have appealed to the UN system and the multilateral donors is to provide Gambians the space to determine the priorities. I think they have the tendency of coming in and influencing how those priorities are shaped. But this time around, there is a parallel process for them, but there is space given to citizens and Gambians to say, these are what our priorities, and then they can then come in and see what they can support. Now, the team is about 8 people who are involved in this thing, in both the vision and the LDP. We have Hadiatul Lamin. She's an expert on agriculture and natural resource management. She's worked in FAO and in UNDP for many years, and she is now working with us on the team to look at agriculture, fisheries, land use, environment, etc. We have Chairman Omar Bari, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Open University. He's also been PS in health education and brings in a lot of wealth of experience in the field of education. We have Elisa, who is a gender specialist, who will be working on women, youth, children, and social protection issues. We have Alfuseli Ture, a macroeconomist in the research department of the central bank, who is part of the team. Then we have Hussein Ngom, who used to be the CEO of Accord in Nairobi for 14 years. That's a development NGO, international NGO. He's back on the ground here, so he'll be working with us on governance issues. Then we have Adam Adin, who also worked with the AU NEPAD infrastructure project. I think he was the focal point for it for many years. And now he's going to look at infrastructure issues, land, sea, air, and connectivity. And finally, we have a third lady, Mariam Kansengor, who will be our M&E expert. So this is the team that is going to be working with the Minister of Finance, Alain Fadera's team, and the COVID Recovery Secretariat that Saba Jallo is heading and coordinating. Now, just by way of conclusion, we are keenly aware that the Gambia is in a fragile transition. There are many gains, but there are many outstanding challenges. There have been much gained on the democratic front, but the job is not yet finished. So this plan, the vision, need to provide the roadmap to consolidate our gains and complete the unfinished business that is still there on the democratic front. And there are many issues that are still there. The second is that economic transformation that was envisaged is still a dream. And this has been made more difficult because of the impact of COVID and other underlying structural factors. And finally, we are also keenly aware that social cohesion, the social fabric in the country is seriously challenged for various reasons. And we need to find a way in which the cohesion and the social fabric issues, tranquility, peace, and so forth are addressed. And by the way, this last concern is a concern that has emerged very, very strongly from the world consultations. People are quite concerned and worried about social cohesion in this country, and they always identify the issues of peace, integration, cohesion as a major priority in terms of what needs to be done. We are also aware that the international and regional context is not auspicious at the moment. There are many challenges. Most likely, the level of funding and commitment and support that we got during the first NDP after the transition is not going to happen this time around. So we need to think very creatively on how resources are going to be used and how resources are going to be spent to reach the goals and get the impacts that we want to achieve. So I'll stop there and just say that we have a set of questionnaires that we want to send to anybody who is interested in the diaspora to give us feedback in terms of what they think should be the priorities for the LDP and the long-term vision, and also give us feedback on what they see Uganda's long-term vision should be, what are the risk factors, how can this be mitigated, what should be the primary overriding policies that need to be put in place so that we reach the vision that we are all crafting. That will be posted on the portal, and also I think the Msdg Diaspora Network will also facilitate, and you will get that during the course of this week loaded into these two platforms and forums. And please don't hesitate to add in anything else that you think. And all the inputs will be taken on board. They will be synthesized and they will be made available for the drafting teams to make sure that they can make use of those ideas. And also, once these drafts are out, we will post them on these two portals so that each individual out there in the diaspora who wants to make a comment and a contribution and express a view on the various things that are proposed, feel free to do that. And I think if the revised drafts will also be posted, I think it will be difficult and challenging for the final validation because of people being dispersed, but whatever comes out finally will also be shared. So I'm excited. I see there are almost 113 participants in this forum, and I'm looking forward to more than 113 inputs and feedback to our questionnaire and the template that we are sending out to you. So thank you very much. I'll stop there and hand over the floor to Professor Farr.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tijan Jallow, and to also thank many of the platforms, both in Gambia and abroad, that are live streaming this. We're really very grateful that we're reaching thousands of people through your work. And my colleague, Lamin Dabo, is taking the lead on this. So the comments and observations I'm going to make would be rather brief. And this is to just give a short reflection on how the diaspora part of the National Development Plan worked, at least in our view, at the MSDG. First observation is the contexts are very different. In 2017, when the first NDP was being set up, it was also being led by Dr. Tijan Jallow. It was really at the very last minute that we even knew about the process, and MSDG almost alone got involved, did some consultation, some research to put in an input and a submission. But still, 2017 was a period of much euphoria about a new Gambia and a great deal of hope on very many fronts. 5 years down the road, the context is quite different. And so that means the lessons learned, and Dr. Jallow have identified one major one, that is what I would call means of implementation, that the commitments and the wish lists and the priorities are all good, but they really need to be reinforced with very robust framework on means of implementation. Almost similar to our own DDF when we're testing on feasibility, viability, and sustainability. So I think that's an important observation. The diaspora strategy, as it was fully incorporated in the NDP, had 14 commitments. For the purposes of this short presentation, I thought I would just do a crude way of presenting our MSDG's own assessment of how it did, how we all did. Of the 14 commitments, I looked at it as if it was an exam and I was marking the papers. By the way, I'm quite a generous marker as a teacher. I would say of the 14, 6, in my view, would be pass, that is over 50%. 6 would be between 30 to 40%, and 2 would be fail. Quickly, what are the 6 passes? The Gambia Diaspora Directorate exists. So it took a long time, but it exists. It's a directorate. Our colleagues in Gambia, they are at the MOFA offices through the auspices of the Gambia Diaspora and Migration Directorate, headed by Deputy Permanent Secretary a camera fully supported by the permanent secretaries, Jai and Safi, and the minister. It exists, it's operating, and we hope to support it for it to be our interlocutor. Two, there is a high level of awareness about the significance of remittances. Central bank as an institution have improved immensely its ability to monitor and report remittances to the extent that when we hold the Stake in the Nation Forum, first or second week of January, they are able to give interim report. And they give the interim report on the 8th of January this year as being 773 million. And by the time the verification, the final verification was done on the 1st of February, it was about 776 million, showing a difference of only 3 million, which is evidence about the accuracy of their money. Bloomberg orders data from Central Bank of the Gambia rather than any other source. Number three, the number of irregular migrants had come down significantly. Of course, the major reason being the change in the political atmosphere. But you have organizations like UN agencies like IOM who are operating and the main player in dealing with distressed and stranded migrants working, and you have the mainly in Africa helping them return to Gambia. You have the EU Trust Fund projects, TECIFI, and many others on youth employment to prevent irregular migration. Number four, the participation of Gambia in global frameworks have also changed. For very many years, you go to these forums, and Gambia was totally out. In Geneva. Our embassy in Switzerland also sits in Geneva, both in Bern and Geneva, and it participates, and our diplomats and our government officials from Banjul and from the missions participates in most, if not all, of the global frameworks to the extent that they actually even take leadership roles. About a forum for diaspora and the government and other stakeholders meet. The Stake in the Nation Forum is now a national feature. We've just done the fifth one. One way to improve it is not to wait every year to do it, but maybe to have ongoing forums every 2 months leading to the annual forum. But many others have set up different forums where government officials, public officials, civil society would come in to discuss things mutually. And of course, many, many years ago, that was not possible. The diaspora spoke to the diaspora, and virtually no public forum where you would have diaspora and government. And the last pass, I would say, for the sixth would be there is a significantly high level awareness that the diaspora has been designated as the 8th region. People tell me during the consultations, even this round of the NDP consultations in different parts of the Gambia, the consultations for the constitutions across the country, people in villages and towns up and down the river Gambia, without prompting them, would come up to talk about the diaspora, representing it as a distinctive, legitimate sort of key holder, stakeholder in the country. By contrast, the ones that I would say it's 30 to 40%, the first one amongst that was that the level of awareness of the Gambia diaspora as in the NDP was relatively low throughout. Many people did not know anything about it, and the people who knew about it didn't know the details, despite whatever efforts were made by Msdg and others. So that, in my mind, falls under that second category of 30 to 40%. Second point on that, there's been some training of public officials on understanding diaspora and development and how to engage. but that didn't go as much as it could have been, partly interrupted by COVID. Third is there's a very high level of technical awareness in the Ministry of Finance and commitment towards diaspora bonds. But the fact is diaspora bonds have not been issued and will not be issued unlikely to be issued in the calendar year of 2022, but very likely in 2023. So it's a bit, some work have been done, but the action and the target itself did not happen. Similarly, diaspora investments through revised packaging has not happened, and that's why MSDG and others are working with GAIPA to develop new ways of accessing and improving diaspora investment. But on an ad hoc level and privately, the members of the diaspora organizations have successfully accessed the necessary custom waivers that they are entitled to. What they haven't been able to do is to have a central place, an interlocutor who can help them do it. People have done it and have suffered in the process, in that it's very bureaucratic and it has taken a lot of their time. In relation to enhancing networks amongst diaspora organizations, that also I would classify as not a total success, in that a lot of ad hoc networks happen, but in terms of having a very active platform where organizations can come together, interact, co-work, develop projects together, it hasn't happened as much as the strategy or the NDP anticipated. And the last 6 point under this one is on improving and increasing the number of Gambian diaspora experts and professionals who are deployed to do work in Gambia. All of the development in this area have been done, done by organizations like MSDG have done some. IOM did a mentoring program in that one, working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And of course, we know that there's a Gambian diaspora experts initiative has been set up who are seeking to actually solve this problem by having access to the diaspora experts and understanding the need in Gambia and doing the matching, skills matching. But my observation is and would be that in the past 5 years, we have not done as much as we have. So which are the two failures in my view? One is there's almost no significant work on implementing labor migration agreements. There is on paper agreement between Gambia and some countries that host a lot of migrant workers, but even those have not been implemented in a framework where we would have circular migration, Gambians recruited in an ethical and open manner, deployed to work in particular countries on visas and return home when their contract finishes. Some things have happened, but again, done privately. And private initiative company in Gambia have been recruiting hospitality staff and deploying them on cruise ships, which are in fact very good contracts, generally work very well. People make decent amounts of money and can come back home, use the money to build a house or pay for university or things like that. So that I would say is a failure in that the framework has not picked up. And the last, and in many people's view, perhaps the biggest failure, was that the diaspora strategy committed that the diaspora will be registered to vote in Gambian elections, and some of the restrictions on Gambians being represented in parliament or as ministers would be lifted, and those things did not happen. Finally, Dr. Tijan, before to hand over to you and Lamin, what I would say is my own personal submission to the new NDP would be to reinforce Tijan the point you make, that is a lot of emphasis on means of implementation. My second substantive input would be on a diaspora development fund. The Gambia government, in my view, Ministry of Finance should come in. Sum of money, a minimum of $1 million, perhaps up to $5 million. I have proven that co-financing and leveraging diaspora investment is powerful. So the government, in my view, should put cash into it. And lastly, sometimes I almost think like I'm a representative of Nike, sportswear company, in that all I want to say is just do it. Thank you, and over to you, Samba.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you, Dr. Jallo. Sorry, we're getting an echo. Thank you, Dr. Jallo. Thank you, Prof. I would now allow my colleague Lamin Dabo to quickly share follow-up information on the revision and updating of the GDS. Yeah. And then I can see Nene and Baimas, they want to speak. We will allow Mr. Dabo to quickly make some add-ons, and then we will open the floor for discussions. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Samba. Just to add on the presentation of Prof, the GDS review process, just to add, also follow similar pattern like the NDP consultations. We've done some desk review of literatures and reports on Gambian diaspora, and also doing some consultations. The consultations, like the stakeholders consultation, we are carrying this out alongside the NDP consultations, covering different stakeholders and interest groups. We have had consultations with Gambian missions and embassies and CSOs, private sectors in the Gambia, among other interest groups and stakeholders. And these consultations are ongoing. Next week, we are having other consultations with youth, women, elderly, National Assembly, among other critical partners. Aside the key stakeholders consultation, we are also doing key informant interviews with policymakers and other critical stakeholders, both in the Gambia and outside the Gambia, including the members of the Gambian diaspora. This is to solicit their feedbacks on GDS implementation, but also their input in the revised GDS. We are also going to have online consultation via a survey, an online survey, where we will be sharing with you very soon, next week for that matter, to solicit your feedback on fundamentally three critical components. One, on GDS implementation, focusing on the relevance, the efficiency of the reviewed GDS, but also your feedback and your input in the revised Gambia diaspora strategy that we are currently formulating, and also on the long-term vision of the Gambia. And this online survey, we hope, will not only be limited to those of you who attend this important consultation today, but you will also extend and share within your network so that we can have more coverage and participation of different Gambian diaspora groups and individuals. Beyond that, we also would like to have some social media engagements with different Gambian diaspora organizations and individuals. And we are still open to your suggestions as well on this, how we could reach more Gambian diaspora and also different actors working with Gambian diaspora, looking at structures, looking at systems that can facilitate your participation, your ownership and involvement in the whole GDS review process. Principally, we are looking at a Gambia diaspora strategy that is grounded in your lived experiences, but also your interests and aspirations as to how you can continue to have structured engagement with Gambia and Gambians, and of course, with the involvement and contribution of Gambian diaspora towards national development. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your feedback and your inputs in this review and formulation of the new diaspora strategy process. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you, Lamin. We would now invite Nene. Nene, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. This was great. I have a question that's for Professor Jibril Fall. It's regarding one of the points he came up with that was a success for the government of the Gambia, and that's the area of that. That's the area that irregular migration has gone down. I was just thinking, when you guys came up with those statistics, was the fact that COVID has existed in the past 2 years and nobody was traveling anywhere, was that a criteria that was taken in this assessment at all? By the way, I'm representing Deja Bati's company, Jobs Consulting, and the Gambia House, where she's the chair.
Thank you, Nene. We'll also take comments or questions from Biomass.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Biomass Tal, a retiree, but not married. I wear two hats. I can consider myself as part of the diaspora because I'm based in Senegal as an advisor to the government, but I'm in Gambia right now. Every week I'm here. I'm a hydro specialist on hydro diplomacy and water infrastructure financing, among others. I've worked with many of those like Adam Dean and Dr. Jallo, etc. Now, a few quick ones. Dr. Jallo, as we're talking about the revived NDP and the long-term vision, me as an environmentalist and very much involved in climate change, we have interacted over in all of the climate change negotiations, that when you talk about economic development, you cannot delink it from the ravage of global warming, because with all of development, we are talking about resiliences. And looking at your team, maybe I missed it, I'm not seeing a pedigree of environmentalists on global warming who can advise you all issues that you will talk, that you need to look at. Two, Dr. Jallo, as you know, Gambia as well is a signatory to many conventions, and we are committed in many declarations, to be specific, Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063, in which you are one of the main authors of Agenda 2063. So as you go along for Gambia, I hope that whatever we're having in the NDP and in the long term will be linked to these international commitments, or how we can domesticate those commitments, because SDG covers everything. We cannot cover with anything new, but how to domesticate them, I hope that will be taken into consideration. Finally, the NDP one is nothing to write home of success, because the implementation and funding, etc. And one of the mistakes that we did, Dr. Jallo, was that Gambia is considered a roundtable country, not a consultative country. As you know, the world is divided, countries are divided. But the NDP was taken to Switzerland on a consultation process with the Swiss government and others who are participants. And the roundtable countries, that is always led by UNDP and non-participating countries. And that's why we have a lot of pledges, and pledges are different from receiving the commitments. And I don't know how much we receive, but we went through that process. I hope this time around, we'll have a process in which not only pledges, but commitments that can be redeemed and having the right people to redeem them. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you indeed, Mr. Baimastal. We have also a question from Basil Jones, which reads, was an independent evaluation of the first NDP conducted to assess lessons learned on what worked and what has not worked, and how the lessons learned can be used to design a new NDP based on evidence? This is from Mr. Basil Jones. We will now invite, we have Bakari Sonko. Bakari, you have the floor, please.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to ask a question. I think in the presentation by Ndumbe, if I get it right, she did mention something about availability of loans for, the people who are interested in implementing projects in the Gambia. I have not had any details about how that loan could be disbursed and what are the criteria and other related issues concerning that. Because as we all know, a grant of 5,000 may not be, it's something, but it's not a huge amount of money to be able to help people implement programs. But if they have the facility or the ability to apply for loans, that can also be helpful. So I would like somebody to probably elaborate a little bit on that, and hopefully that will help people who are interested in that facility. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bakari. Musa, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor again. Some of my comments are going to predominantly be observations and obviously the way forward as to what I think obviously needs to be done in regards to the National Development Plan. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to get our input into the NDP, which is very, very important. But as we all are aware, there was an NDP that has been implemented for the past 5 years. And obviously, we all know many factors contributed to obviously the failure of the NDP that was obviously produced in the last 5 years. I think what we need to understand, I mean, moving forward as a country, we got to understand that obviously, yes, politics cannot be disassociated from the National Development Plan. But what is key, is obviously the players need to know that obviously the NDP and having the diaspora input into the NDP shouldn't be politicized. Because I think the NDP's failures have some of the factors that contributed to it was obviously, the executive, looking at the NDP at different lenses, against the wills or the great work that has been done to that document to be implemented to move Gambia forward, has been oversight for the past 5 years. Yes, I know the consultations have started. But again, I think, as somebody alluded before, what were some of the mishaps from the previous NDP plans? Because I think in any NDP to be fully implemented, I think the line ministries are key players into this. Yes, I heard from the presentation that this has to be done in line with the budget that is going to come out. But do we have the support of the executive? When I say the executive, obviously, is the president and the line ministries, because they are going to be the key players in terms of implementing this NDP. So yes, the diasporas could put their expertise in, but many a times, I think the way things are seen is from the political lenses as to some of the contributing factors of some of us who wanted to do our part in obviously contributing to the NDP. I remember when the fund was allocated to the Gambia for the integration project. I volunteered obviously to contact the then former vice president at the time who was overseeing the budget of the integration processes. I mean, I've given him I've tried to put a lot of suggestions because obviously I was privileged, to do some work in that area whilst I was here in UK. But obviously, I think I was seen in a different lenses. And for me, the country is, more valuable to me than when it comes to my personal political affiliations. Obviously, I have my reasons to do that. But when it comes to obviously how we wanted to move our country forward, and especially with a document and a project, a vision like what we want to look at NDP up to 2050. You know, there's a massive, huge, you know, lenses we are looking at how we wanted to bring this. So my concern here will be, you know, we're going to put our efforts and time into putting what we think is the way forward, and then probably it will not be taken anywhere. Yes, I know obviously there's a team of expertise put together, but again, you know, we will spend time, months and days trying to put these working documents together. And when it gets to the people who should support in implementing this, you know, they can probably take a different approach, or obviously seen it at a different lens, and then probably just put it at the back, at the cells as we normally do, with all the efforts and input that we put into this work. So thank you. Yes, this is my observation that I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Musa. Alaji Diaune, you have it, please. Please go ahead with your question. Alaji, you're muted if you're speaking. Alaji, please go ahead. Alaji Diaune, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sure, Alaji.
Oh, okay.
Please go ahead.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Yeah, my name is Alhaji Diaune. I'm on this Zoom conference from New Jersey. I am in this conference as a private citizen. I have worked for New York State government for the past 22 years, and in the area of information technology. Now, my concerns are, I know Gambia has a lot of development priorities, but I think it will be important to prioritize some of this development agenda that you have talked about, all the brilliant presenters have talked about here. One of the areas that I see is lacking in the Gambia is information technology or information communication technology. We all know that this is a big challenge for the Gambia right now, and we all also understand that information technology is a cross-cutting area. It is kind of involved with all aspects of our life in this day and age. And I think it will be important if this is given the highest priority as possible, so that some of the other industries like agriculture, education, health, and even investment, business, finance can utilize the investments in infrastructure, in technology, to be able to bring the country to a level where we can participate in the global economy. And I think we all know there's no need to be able, to elaborate on this, that Gambia is far behind when it comes to information technology. And I'm just saying, I'm appealing, to everybody on this panel to actually encourage government to invest highly in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Alaji Diaune.
Yes.
Thank you. Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have additional comments on the chat. One is that we should consider recording things like this in the future and to upload it on the website, so those who may not have time now can access it later. We also have another comment from Bai. And it also has a question where, or a suggestion where he said, could I suggest a consultation with the diaspora force to hear our plights and challenges, to invest and contribute to the development of the Gambia, and then draft strategies of addressing them to open up the country for diaspora investment and participation. There are myriad of projects from the diaspora that have come to halt due to challenges from various regulatory bodies to even get started or implemented. Thank you, Mai. Yes, I think those are the comments we have online. We will now allow Aliou Nyasi to also share his perspectives. Aliou, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for allowing me again. Aliou Nyasi, I'm chair of Yes Africa Foundation, speaking to you from state of Ohio in the United States. One of the things that I wanted to allude to is that there is the National Development Plan should also incorporate getting rid of the red tape that continue to exist in the Gambia. For example, I have been part of the development process in the Gambia for the past 25 years since arriving in the United States. If you look at the Buyam Hospital, that solar system, which is about $300,000, was based on my work. We wanted to supply the power system coming from that system in Buyam so that we can sell power to NAWEC, and NAWEC can in turn sell power to the community. And the hospital will now have a revenue coming in to sustain the hospital. We did the same thing for Bangkok Hospital. But I think there's a lot of red tape whereby if individuals who have leadership and who have a voice, if they're not earning anything, if there's nothing for them there, they're not supporting it. We did the same work in Sibano, the water system in Sibano, in my own village. One of the few villages where the water supply is better than water supply in Banjul, which is sad. But we did a $2 million water project in 2018, and now the village is doing very well. But I think that we have so much tape that actually dims the light for our participation in the process. One of the things that we come in this Africa Foundation, we talk about home ownership in the Gambia. If you work in the civil service in Gambia, there is no way you could build a house. There's no way you could own a house in the problem we have today is real estate and affordable. What is affordable housing to somebody in the Gambia when a house built by construction or other agencies is costing $52,000? Which Gambian can own something like that? They're marketing to the people in the diaspora and not marketing to the people at home. They're taking land owned by those people and selling it to the people in their diaspora. So I think the development plan has to keep for the simple fact that immigration, backward, we have to also ensure that the people at home are able to make a living, are able to survive while we keep them at home. Comfortable savings. Nobody could retire from $1,000 a month. How can we with that? Think about a 5 program. Every agency invests their own money, but also so when you retire, there's a way you can live with those means. But I think that this consultation is great. I commend all what you guys are doing. I commend what Dr. Fall had just said. But I think that it's high time, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are calling us to participate in this conversation. Dr. Barry is a member of the board. Yes, Africa Foundation. The majority of we have a youth council. The do for our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aliou. We'll now hear from the Jobate.
Yes, thank you so much for these great discussions and debate. I just want to also make emphasis on the issue about gender in this whole thing, because we have seen that this government is really poor when it comes to gender equality, proper women representation, parity law, and the Gender Forum has done an excellent work. I hope the team working on this NDP will also consult with them to have those inputs they've already put through in Parliament that didn't also work, to look at those things, because it is really crucial. Nobody can tell me here that there are no qualified women in Gambia that could fill some of these positions that are there as well. So it is really embarrassing, honestly. So I hope this is going to be part of this discussion. Another thing I have also is about some of these questionnaire, which doctor said that they will send it round. It will be very important to send this questionnaire very early with good time for people, or some of us who live in the diaspora. We have seen some of these things, suggestions coming in, inputs being asked, but then the timing is like 2 days before the deadline. You are sent this thing, 3 days before we work here. Some of us run our own companies. We have other things to do, including what we do in the Gambia. So we need enough time to be able to work on these things and send in our input. And it's also important also to get this diaspora in different sectors. And I hope that you people will be able to map this out in various sectors, because today here we are seeing massive expertise here in different fields. If those things can be divided to invite diaspora in different sectors, like the sector expert, to be involved in this development, will be very crucial here, so that it's not just like an open field that people just put in, but just to be able to allow people to go into their sectors and field to put these inputs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jobate. Lamin Jata, please go ahead. Lamin Jata?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Lamin, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. My name is Lamin Jata. I'm a descendant of Kunti Kinte, and also the founder of Kunti Kinte Foundation here in USA, California. And my question is that before raising my question, I am really delighted and grateful for all of you for setting up such a group, because this is what we need as a Gambians. You know, we all have to come together. That's the only way we can develop our country and our continent. So if you look at every country, it's only Gambia that I don't see like having this kind of unity, because we all live in overseas, you know, we all have our expertise and professional works and stuff. But if we come together and everybody brings something together on table, I think Gambia can be not only a great country, but it will be the most greatest country, not only Africa, but around the world, because we have something that much people don't have. That's the culture, history, and coming together. So seeing much people living there various time and coming to this group, you know, is good. So my story short, that, you know, we have worked with different sectors. I'm on the entertainment side also. Kunti Kinte also keeping his legacy alive. So speaking to different people in the country, I'm all over the medias here in the US and England too, BBC and all that. Also promoting the history and culture. So I have a very difficulty because, you know, I don't know such a group like this exists before. So we made a film called Roots, you know, the remake of Roots, you know, Kunti Kinte. And we have over 57 million viewers in the US, around the world. So among all those 57 million, if we can bring them to Gambia and also develop our tourism and improve, you know, Gambia, we all know tourism is a big sector there. And for my expertise on that, culture, history, and then also how do we engage with African Americans and Black in diaspora to bring them back to their roots, you know, to the country, because I'm working with the government of Ghana. And all of you knows that how the year of return, what it did in Ghana is it's one of the most successful. We used to have Roots Festival, but now it's not happening. And the Ghana take over from that year of return. And Senegal is working something similar like that. So we just create the Kunta Kinte Day last year. And then it was very successful. It was a march past. And also to letting people know, the young people who do not know Kunta Kinte also know what Kunta Kinte is about. You know, it's from Gambia. And all over the planet, they're making billions of dollars from Kunta Kinte name, and we Gambians are not making nothing. And they're so coming together and stop this infighting and stuff, and come together as one people, I think we can achieve so much greater than we even expected. We can leave so much good to our great-great-grandkids come before us. We can leave some good legacy, because if you look at our cultural heritage sites, most of them are all disappearing. You know, there's a guy in Warsaw who died, you know, and Stone Man, you know, you look at Jufre, you know, you look at Kunta Kinte Island, you look at Fort Bland, you look at so many other parts. History is destroying, the water is destroying the Gambian history. So how do we come together, also work as one, and preserving our cultural heritage, because that's what we have. We have UNESCO World Heritage areas, but still there's a lot of water, you know, erosion is taking so much of our stuff away. So my work is that, you know, focus on those. And I can do it alone, but I can do it with people. We have a great team in the Gambia working together. And we want the Kunta Kinte Day to be a national holiday, because Gambia has never created their own holiday. We have so many holidays, but if you ask yourself, do we have our own name-made in national holiday? So Kunta Kinte is a symbol. It doesn't belong to me, it doesn't belong to my family, it belongs to the all Gambians. So how do we support each other? Come out on July 5th, Westfield to the traffic line, and join us with this celebration. It's our heritage, it's our culture. It's our pride, and then we're gonna have that. So do we have funding for this kind of stuff? Is the organization have any support or funding with those kind of heritage roots tourism to support what we are doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Lanu. Lumbe, if you have a question, please go ahead. If you're responding, I would like you to wait, and we allow those who are asking questions, and then together we can respond to all the issues that have been raised here.
Thank you. Then I have to wait. I'm just.
All right, thank you. iPad, and before iPad comes in, I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that it's past 5:30, which was the period this call should end. I would encourage the rest of those who have their hands up to summarize their contributions, so that within the next 15 minutes, we will end this call, inshallah. So we have a participant under the name iPad. You have the floor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. I believe this is iPad. Hello. My name is Habib Mbai. I'm based here in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, more than anything, a cheerleader. Now, this second going of the National Development Plan, so to speak, I was privileged in one of your team's fact-finding mission around Kayaf and those areas. And I was very impressed the amount of steps that we are taking to actually go into these places. I was privileged to ride with Dr. Barry and Mr. Ngom, that we are doing some listening, I would call it, around Kayaf area. And to see the condition, and to tell you the truth, that was the first time I ventured up river. And to tell you the truth, the conditions of these people and your team going to that extent, I was very impressed. And on another note, still with this consultancy, I'm the honorary consul designate for Georgia here in the U.S. And very thankful to the late Ambassador Fadera that have started to gather some professionals to help review the plan. Just as a cheerleader, that I think this plan is very serious, and if we just give it a chance, I believe we will definitely realize some very, very fruitful things for our country. And not to mention Dr. Fall. Dr. Fall is a patriot. I mean, I know he's in there just for his country. And thanks to Nene for a very beautiful presentation. Thank you, guys, and cheer up. Thanks.
Thank you indeed. We will now hear from Bakari. Bakari, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Fall and the team at MSDG for the wonderful job they're doing and putting this wonderful program together. My contribution, for my question, I was also a diasporan. I returned in 2014. I worked in the microfinance industry in commercial bank, and now I'm working with the Ministry of Agriculture as an agribusiness specialist in one of the flagship projects in the NDP. Now, I think with all these great things that we're talking about and all these things that the MSDG is doing, I don't know how far or how well you're dealing with the issue of revenue leakage in the country. If you look at the country as a whole, we have so many areas where revenue is leaking that could be used to help solve some of these issues that we're talking about today. For instance, if you look at most of the countries in Europe, very rare you deal with cash, because if you don't deal with cash, if everything is done online, definitely you would be able to combat revenue leakage. For instance, look at the traffic offense. Where is the money going to? And look at the disbursements that we're receiving, the revenues that we collect, and the expenditures that we're doing. I mean, it's most of the time cash. And definitely this is obviously affecting the country as a whole. So I don't know what we're doing. Is this something, or is this part of what we're doing to see how do we combat all this revenue leakages to be able to, do well for our country? Because if all these projects that we're doing, all these things that we're doing, there is no strategy in place to make sure that revenue is not leaked at areas that it's not supposed to. Really, it's going to affect whatever we're doing today. So, it's a question of whether or not it's part of what you're doing today at MSDG. Thank you.
Thank you, Bakari. Adam Jallo, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. What I will say is more like a comment. As a person who works with people that live with epilepsy, we all know that part of what we go through is stigma, and because of that, most of them don't actually end up going to school or fulfilling their dreams. So my comment is, I'm hoping that this National Development Plan covers things to do with learning disability. I don't understand, or I don't believe, as a person as well who has family members both in UK and Gambia who has lived with, or who currently live with epilepsy, one has lived a fulfilled life, still continue to do so, and one that hasn't because the system was not equipped with what he needed to get educated and live a fulfilled life. So my comment is, or what I want the NDP officials to consider, is no child should be left uneducated because their community is uneducated about their condition. So I'm hoping that learning disability will be something that will be included, or how to cater for people with learning disability will be included in the National Development Plan. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Adam Jallo Jane. We'll now hear from Lamin Jatta, and then we will allow comments and perspectives from Dr. Jallo and team. Go ahead, Lamin.
Thank you. This is Lamin Jatta from Atlanta, Georgia. This is a great forum, like all the previous speakers said, and we're grateful for the opportunity to participate and also share our views. What I'm not sure about in terms of the National Development Plan's agenda, number one, and how it's going to implement some of these projects, is how they are collaborating with the different diaspora organizations out there that are targeting their specific local communities in terms of helping the communities develop or implement some of the projects that are dear and near to their hearts. There are several non-profit organizations in the diaspora that are implementing development projects on the ground in the Gambia. And I think it will be great for the NDP to consult with those organizations and understand what their projects are, what their targets are, and perhaps incorporate those ideas and those development targets into the National Development Project itself. That way it can have the most impact on the development of the country. I think that's key to the success of the NDP. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit challenging, or we're working in parallel in terms of developing the country. You have the local efforts and you have the national efforts, and the two do not match, hence the impact is minimized by too much red tape. So that's my number one question. The second question I have is, in terms of the input from the diaspora, is there going to be a central database where all these inputs from the diaspora and even folks on the ground can be stored and also be available not only to the diaspora, but also to the different line ministries to tap into when the policymakers are looking at creating or formulating policies, and when they're implementing policies, to make sure that their policies are in line with these NDP suggestions from either the diaspora or on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jata. We'll take one last comment from Mr. Abdoulaye Toure. Mr. Toure says, congratulations to Team Professor Fall. Standard Bank is being divested. The Diaspora Fund should mobilize the Gambian diaspora and local investors to make an offer to take over the bank and transform it into the Gambia Investment and Industrial Bank. We should reposition the Gambia as a veritable gateway now that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. As Professor Fall said, just do it. That is a comment from Mr. Abdoulaye Toure. I guess on that note, we will now allow Dr. Tijan and team to respond. Doctor, would you like to go first?
Yes.
Go ahead, Doctor.
I will take some of the questions and comments, and I'd like to take some of them. First of all, everybody there. Great ideas that have been shared, have been taken note of. So thank you very much for the inputs of different personalities. I'll just start with by Mastal. I was wondering where you were. You're still in Senegal. I want to assure you that the climate issue is central there, as I said. In fact, we are fortunate. I led the team that developed the 2050 climate vision for the Gambia. And the reason why I said we are fortunate is because it provides an opportunity now to make sure that the things that are in the climate vision 2050 can be mainstreamed into our national development plan and the long-term vision. So a lot of work has gone into it, and a lot of work has been done by the Minister of Environment in terms of the updating of the national determined contribution from the Gambia. I think the document has been completed now. So we don't have much of a challenge in terms of what needs to go in. And I think the challenge would be actually how do you get the ministries to change the way they do business. That's where the challenge really would be. And my colleague Hadi Lamin Jai has worked extensively with FAO and other agencies to develop programs and projects for the Green Climate Fund. So she's eminently qualified to help us make sure that this is well reflected. In terms of our commitments in Agenda 2063 and domestication, I fully agree with you. And in fact, in the last round, an independent assessment done by UNECA on the NDP was that about 48% of the priorities of Agenda 30 had been integrated into the National Development Plan, and something like 37% of the priorities in the Agenda 2063, which I was privileged to lead, have also been integrated. So that is well noted, and will continue to increase the level of compliance or alignment between Agenda 2060, between our national development frameworks and these other frameworks. But we can only go so far. We don't have to pick everything which is in these frameworks. Some of them may have to come later down the road. In terms of the comments made by Mr. Musa, the comments are well taken, but I think so far I can point to 3 positive things that augur well for the future in terms of the new development plan. Number one is that the recent ministerial realignment for me is a very positive one. You can quibble with 1 or 2 issues about it, but I think likely we missed this kind of focus on delivery that we haven't had in the past. And I think the creation of the new Ministry of the Civil Service and getting the civil service divorced from the office of the president is an extremely positive development. And I think if all the enabling factors around this ministry are put in place, I think government is really serious about implementing what it puts in this plan. So that's really positive coming from the executive. The second positive thing that I see also in terms of institutional realignment is the divorce of the Minister of Information from ICT and the digital economy. So it means that the executive is fully aware that we need an independent institution that can drive the transformation of our economy. And that's extremely positive, and we all have to applaud that. And thirdly, finally, is the fact that they are giving us a free hand to consult and bring the issues to them. I think that's what is the first time, as somebody said, as Habib said, that people have gone to every single ward in this country to listen to what the concerns are, and communicating those concerns, documenting them, and making them available to decision makers and say, these are the priorities that have emerged. But we must all also accept that the government in place is the one which is going to implement. And therefore, they also have a latitude to say that we also have these priorities as a government to deliver. Because they run on a mandate, they won on a mandate, therefore they have to deliver on a mandate. So let's try and keep the politics out of it as much as we can, and really try and rise up as citizens and individuals of this country to see what we can do, what we can contribute in terms of ideas, and also work gradually in a very collegial and very collaborative way and see how we can move this country forward. I think that's extremely important. So all these are taken on board, and we are not saying that we are not listening to any segment of society. No, far from it. In fact, we even had a dialogue with the Interparty Committee just to listen to what they have. So I think the government has shown the willingness to hear the contributions of many voices across the board, and I think we should take them in good faith in that. I think, Alaji Jaune, your thing on ICT, we share with you that, with your views on that. And I think the government also is recognizing that by this new institutional environment that they have put in place, bringing ICT and digital economy up front. I hope that we can capitalize on it as a country. I think the suggestion that you have on uploading the data that we have collected from the field, we've discussed that with the Minister of Finance, and a database will be created. Now the regional administrations can draw up on that database to develop their strategic plans, their implementation plans. Even the diaspora who are funding projects can draw upon those priorities that are expressed at grassroots. And the approach and the philosophy is that you have national development plan which has national programs, but you also have an instrument or a mechanism that can address immediate grassroots needs through another mechanism. That way we beat these two priorities together. I think there was a pilot phase, Alaji will talk about that in terms of responding to grassroots needs. So now we have the database, we have the information. Anybody can design their project around the priorities that have been identified. And I urge you to take advantage of it once the database is ready. Mr. Mbai's point on consultation with diaspora, I think you will see that in the questionnaire from Lamin Dabo that will be also administered to you, and that will be taken into account. The issues raised by Ali Inyasi on red tape, really, I think we all share the concern on red tape. But as I said, let's see how this new ministry that is supposed to coordinate and deliver on these things works. And I think any assistance, any ideas that can help the drive for this is most welcome. Jabate, thank you very much for flagging the gender issues. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow morning with the women representatives, and I think if I recall right, Emily Sarr had already reached out to the constituency that you are talking about, and she will be there. We will also send the questionnaire next week. We are not leaving it till late. Then the idea of diaspora involvement in the different sectors, we can see how that can be done, but you can also input once the sector working group reports are out and made available, you can input into those. If there are other ways in which we can strengthen that, that would be really, really most welcome. Hadid, thank you for taking part in the KAYAF focus group discussions and also exchanging views with my colleagues, Dr. Chernogba, Barry, and I think it was Hussein Ngong. Yes. Revenue leakage, Bakari Silla, you are here, so we'll talk a little bit more about your ideas on how that can be integrated into that. Adam Ajalo, thank you very much for the points that you have raised already. We met persons with disability, but I doubt whether in our discussion with them, the issue of children with learning disabilities ever came up. Oh, it did come up. My colleagues are correcting me that it did come up. So they were represented also, I understand. So we'll take that up with them. And if you have any material that the team can use to help us build more evidence and to provide more ideas and suggestions on possible interventions, you are most welcome for that. Now, 15 Lamin Jata in Atlanta, I think you have also touched on very important thing of how you collaborate with diaspora networks that are implementing grassroots projects. And it is precisely that what I was referring to earlier, that there will be a special program on delivering community-based programs. And that's where I think the integration and the collaboration should be built. And I think Alaji has taken note of that. I'll stop here and just thank everybody really for the very bright ideas and very important inputs that have been made. But I think in contrast to the other NDP, the the institutional alignment that has been done by the executive actually places the NDP in a better position to be fully implemented and to have an impact. So therefore, I'm very, very optimistic, and I think they have taken the right decisions on many issues related to that. So thank you very much. Let's continue the dialogue. We'll send the questionnaire sometime this week. And from you, because it will take a lot of time to consolidate, synthesize all the inputs that are coming from different people in the diaspora. So please, if you can respond in a couple of weeks, that will help us to put together everything and integrate it with the rest of the stuff that we have. So thank you very much. I hand over to Alaji Fadera for the rest of the questions.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I want to just quickly respond to the issues related to whether an evaluation was done for the National Development Plan by Dr. Basil Jones. I think this is a very legitimate concern, and I want to assure you that yes, a midterm evaluation was done for the National Development Plan. The evaluation was delayed because of the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, as if not, we should have delivered on the midterm evaluation in 2020, but that wasn't possible. The midterm evaluation was finalized in 2021. And again, it was done by a team of independent consultants because we really saw the need to try and avoid that conflict of interest where government will have elaborated a national development plan and government officials all by themselves would have done the evaluation and given some kind of assessment as to the progress or lack thereof. And the evaluation looked at progress that has been registered, the challenges and things that we need to focus on. And the current undertaking is part of the recommendations that we need to work on a successful national development plan, which should also look at the challenges that have been posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And before the evaluation, there was also an annual progress report for the national development plan for the year 2018. So we will again try, most of these documents are available on the NDPP, that's the National Development Planning Platform, ndpp.gm. All of the reports are available, but again, we will work with our colleagues through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Msdg project to make these reports available. And also as part of this formulation process, the sector working groups, that the ministry departments and agencies will be tasked to further update the midterm evaluation so that at least we know the latest information up to end 2021. As to what has transpired in terms of the implementation and as it relates to the various indicators of progress of the NDP. So once again, we want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking your time off and engaging and making such brilliant and very constructive contributions to the process. This is just the beginning, and we're committed to continue to engage with you right throughout the process and during the implementation. Thank you.
Professor Fall, would you like to comment on questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Samba, and thanks to Dr. Jallo and Mr. Fadera. Nene's first question, I did give my excuses in the beginning by declaring that I am a generous marker. Whatever score I give, I suppose a harsher marker can discount it. So relating to irregular migrants, I can confirm that at least our assessment in terms of the reduction of the numbers was based on pre-COVID. Of course, COVID had a big impact in stopping all sorts of travel and migration, but the assessment was pre-COVID. And just to refresh our minds as to what numbers we're talking about, by the way, the target in the diaspora strategy was that distressed and vulnerable migrants would be supported and that the number of irregular migrants would fall by 60% by 2021 from the high numbers of 2020. right now I don't have immediate access to the data of all the irregular migrants. So I'll just refresh minds on the Italy numbers, which is the biggest group. It's Italy and Germany that are the biggest group. In 2016, there were 10,700 Gambians who had already been given refugee status in Italy. So in a sense, that group did not belong to the category of those who needed to be protected because they already had status in Italy. But in the same year of 2016, there were 16,500 asylum seekers, meaning they were in the process and not yet sorted out. And strikingly, of that 16,500, 11,926 arrived in 2016 in that year, 11,926. In fact, that year of 2016, the number of irregular migrants who entered Italy through the Mediterranean irregularly were 181,000, and the Gambian youngsters were 11,926 of that, making 6.6%. These are horrendous numbers. Of course, as soon as the political the dictatorship ended and a coalition government came into power, that dynamic changed and the reduction happened significantly. But it gives us an idea. Your question really leads to a suggestion for the new NDP, which is what to do with the about 20,000 Gambians in Europe, particularly in Germany, Italy, and to some extent in Spain, who are in limbo, in that they don't have status and there are serious threats that they would be deported back to Gambia. So that situation of to deal with this category, I think perhaps should be an issue in the strategy and the NDP. Regarding the other questions, the Diaspora Fund does not specifically have, or the MSDG projects in general, we don't have a specific big pot on heritage, but of course heritage is included. So the Roots project or other heritage related projects can indeed apply for the DDF. One of the strongest strategic partners of the MSDG project is Yaram Arts, run by Njog Malik Jeng in the UK. And together and in partnership with NCAC, who I think are already also on this call, we have already done quite a number of interesting things on culture. And it is our view at MSDG that culture is often wrongly relegated when we talk about development. Not only about creating, about creative and cultural industries, but the role of culture in building confidence and self-esteem in diaspora people and second, third generation, which in turn allows them to fulfill their potentials and therefore contribute better to development in Gambia. We work with the police band. This is under different schemes, not the Diaspora Development Fund. We work with the police band and support them. And you may already have seen some of the work we've done by recording traditional lullabies in different languages, making it available. And they have now been written as musical scores, and we are as a musical workbook, and we're working to improve and expand that. Mention was also made in passing about our colleague, the honorary consul designate from the United States. The diaspora strategy included that the point on diaspora diplomacy and the commitment to identify suitably qualified Gambians and appoint them as honorary consuls. And of course, the late Ambassador Dauda Badera, who was Secretary General when the MSDG project worked very hard on this. He rang me one time and he said, listen, with this honorary consul, I'm going to try a slightly different way. And instead of just people privately being selected, why don't we go to the community and see whether they select someone? And I think in the United States that was done, and 5 or 6 people were identified. And guess what? In this question about we just have to do it, those people, to my knowledge, have still not been formally appointed honorary consul. So the late ambassador has to designate them as such, but they were not formally appointed. So the government needs to get on with it and make those appointments. Our colleague Bakari talks about revenue leakage. For those of us who are not very sophisticated, my sense is he's talking about corruption and theft. And my point is, for us, the MSDG, we don't have a specific digitization program, but again, with the heritage projects, we would be more than happy to support digitization projects, however small. And of course, for all the reasons he's given, because it increases productivity, accountability, and reduces what euphemistically referred to as revenue leakages, which in crude terms is people stealing other people's money, really. And we have programs such as IFAD, UN agency, is running a program in Gambia on trying to support digitization, especially around mobile money and remittances. That's one thing to look out for. And two last questions, comments. One was from Dr. Jalo Sonko regarding the loans that Ndumbe mentioned. She was referencing the point that diaspora development funds generally have the ability to create different forms of co-financing. The grant ones we're doing, to loans, to even equity. So there are many things that should be done, and perhaps the National Development Plan, the DDF commitment there, should look for those options. But our own DDF doesn't have a loan element. It is for now a grant element. And linked to that, there's suggestion about can the DDF get involved in Standard Chartered, the sale of Standard Chartered. The way we're structured now, the DDF, the answer would be no, it cannot be, because we've raised the funds to disperse out in these grants as we've discussed. But as Mr. Ture mentioned, many of us have been having similar thoughts, and I think different people are thinking of different ways of perhaps taking this opportunity to create some form of integrated banking in Gambia, which brings general consumer banking together with the small level of corporate banking we have in Gambia, but the beginnings of investment banking and development banking to cover agricultural financing as well. The new Capital Markets Act that came into force in 2017 gives the opportunity, and I think that links to the point that Jalo has made about the financing of the NDP. With the fatigue and lack of money and the fact that the donor world have other priorities than Gambia, means that Gambian financing for Gambian development needs to be taken seriously. And the most viable candidate in that area is the diaspora. Beyond the remittances they send, which is $760 million, they are also keeping several more, well, how many hundreds of millions of dollars in savings in the countries they live at, we don't know. But if structures can be created, confidence built for more of the diaspora savings, not the expenditure remittances, but the diaspora savings to be invested in products and services in Gambia that would assist with local financing for development. And in this line, MSDG held a technical roundtable on the subject on the 1st of February with the Central Bank Ministry of Finance and all of the commercial banks. We partnered with the Gambia Bankers Association on that. That line of inquiry and development would be pursued more. And our colleague, Ndumbe Saho, who has just joined us as technical director, will play a leading role in developing this diaspora investment and finance option, as a viable alternative to financing development in the Gambia. Thank you, and I express my thanks to all of you in line with Ministry of Finance and Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I hand back to you, Samba. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. And I'll also hand it over quickly to Alaji. Alaji would like to respond, and then also I'll just invite him to deliver the closing, except if my other colleagues, Lamin, do you have anything? Ndumbe, would you like to share anything with us before we hand it to Alaji to do the closing?
No, just to thank everyone for the collaboration. I think first suffice on what I was trying to comment on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alaji, you have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you.
You're muted, Samba or Alaji.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right. Thank you very much, Samba, and thank you, everyone. We really appreciate all of you taking time off your very, very busy schedule to engage with us during this consultative forum. We look forward to even greater success in the next National Development Plan. And like we indicate, we will share with you the midterm evaluation and the annual progress report. And the assessment as at midterm indicated that of the funds that were pledged, 41.9% were actually disbursed. And this should be taken into context in the sense that about 40% of the funds that were pledged at the Brussels conference were loans. And we all know at 2018, early 2018, we had very high debt burden as a country. And government was very careful in selecting which disbursements or which pledges to materialize into commitments so that it doesn't further put greater strain on our debt levels. So 41.9% of the funds were disbursed, and as far as progress was concerned, the independent evaluation found out that 60% of all the outcomes were either achieved or on track to be achieved by end of 2020. And that is why, as part of this assignment, we want to make sure that the sector working groups continue to look at the performance of the various indicators and outcomes to see since end 2020 what has happened as far as this 60% attainment level was concerned. And I think taking all this within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and all that would indicate that at least performance is not what we would ordinarily have desired, but it wasn't that bad given all these dimensions and the impact of COVID. And of course, with COVID, we know that there were shifts in terms of international funding priorities because bulk of the funds were being invested into how to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. So we thank all of you, and we would continue to commit ourselves to sharing as much as possible information relating to the implementation of the national development plans going forward, and to make sure that we communicate and to make the national development planning platform very vibrant, where we will be able to interact, get feedback, but also share any assessments that have been done, so that at least we will be able to have good information and we will be able to get good feedback. Your participation here today indicates your strong interest in the development of this country. And that is something that all of us would want to nurture and enhance, because at the end of the day, this country belongs to all of us, and we all want, in one way or the other, whether we are in the public sector, in the private sector, in civil society, or in the diaspora, to ensure that we meet the aspirations of our people and improve their lives and livelihoods. So on behalf of the government of the Gambia, on behalf of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs that's coordinating this formulation process, we want to thank you, and we look forward to engaging with you right throughout the process, so that once this is finalized, we would see it as our national development plan, and we will take active part in its implementation, and we will hold each other accountable. To Professor Jibril Fall, we thank you very much for being out there and for always facilitating our engagement with the diaspora. We're also very appreciative of the efforts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we can be rest assured that our doors are open, and anytime, please feel free to reach out to us in government, to our consultants, and share any information, best practice, etc., that can help us do a national development plan with a difference compared, because there is always room for improvement. And if anything, government should be ready to always improve the way it operates so that it can deliver on the expectations and meet the expectations of the citizenry. Thank you very much, and God bless all of us.
Thank you very much, Alaji. Prof, would you like to say a few words before we close this meeting?
No, the director has spoken. Thank you very much.
Well, what remains is for us to again thank all of you, and we will adjourn today's call. And I use the word adjourn deliberately because the conversation, the exchanges, and the discussions will continue from now on. Thank you, everybody, and we'll close for today. And stay safe, and see you some other time. Thank you.
Thank you, Samba.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.